Hello and a very good morning. Welcome to Shop on TV. I'm Hayley Green.
I'm Sean Crawley.
And we've got a fantastic show tonight. We've got a show that is just so important, and I think it makes you understand how important it is to write a will. Because if you haven't written or got a legally written will in place, there actually is a will that falls into place if you haven't actually written one yourself.
Yeah, the government will, and we'll explain as we go through the show. But tonight we're working directly with experts in the field when it comes to writing wills and lasting powers of attorney. We're working with Simpler Law. So tonight, your best way to get in touch is to go to simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. We've got some exclusive offers, and I think you'll be blown away by how affordable it is to write a will or an LPA, lasting power of attorney.
And I think you'll be blown away as well at the fact that if you haven't written one, there is one out there for you. It's not that you haven't got one. The government will fall in place, and sadly that will not be what you want to happen. It's all a list of yes/no questions, and for us, because we've been together, I've forgotten now, 34 years?
34 years.
I'd worked it out. I think it's 34 years.
Everyone a joy.
But we're not married. So for us, though we know we've been together 34 years, and what's mine is Sean's and what's Sean is mine, our family know that, the government will would have nothing to do with that. But even if you're married, if you've children from different families, it's so complicated. And with a will, you can do so much. Even choose the guardians to your children and things such as that. But we thought it'd be really expensive. We thought it'd be really complicated. And honestly, with Simpler Law, it's not. Really not.
And we've got fantastic discounts. We're going to share the deals with you straight away and the offers that Simpler Law have brought us. Then we've got two experts joining us from Simpler Law to talk you through everything. So let's take a look at those offers that we've got available for you this evening. First of all, if you want to write a will, well, the suggested retail price at £249 is a great price. However, 40% off brings it down to £149. However, there's an even bigger bonus, another discount of £30. So today's price to write a will, a legally binding document, is £119. You don't even have to pay that today. You've got 4 interest-free flexible payments on offer from Simpler Law directly, just £29.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments.
And this is only the second time that we've had these amazing deals with those extra discounts as well. So you're looking at the will, but we have got the lasting power of attorney, and we will go into what that actually is. So important, just as important really as a will in different ways. £349 is the price that it should be. We've got 40% off for the show, so £209 is the price it should be, but you have got an extra £20 off, and that £20 off brings that price down to £189. And of course, the great thing is, not only have you got incredible savings there, you can split that cost to £47.25. Now that means, if you think about that, that is perhaps the price of a takeaway. If you're getting the price of the will, that's perhaps the amount you spend on coffee in a month, or possibly a week, actually, if we're honest.
Yeah.
And then we have got, which we're really excited about, and we haven't always done, we've got the two together as well.
Yeah, the will and lasting power of attorney joined together, well, a suggested retail price of £598. With the 40% off, it should have been £358, but another £80 off the price brings it down to £278. And on those 4 interest-free flexible payments, it's just £69.50 on your first of 4 payments. Now, what we do have to point out is these offers are only available until close of business on Friday. So we would say get in touch. However, there's another bonus. There's this fantastic book that Simpler Law are offering you as a bonus. Now, this is worth £25, What My Family Should Know. And this is where you can record everything that you need to know, or your family need to know when you pass away. It's not just things like pensions and bills and utility providers.
It's your passwords to your your iPad or your tablet or to your phone. There might be photos that people are desperate to keep, or actually emails that people need to get hold of. And if their password isn't available, you can't get on that information. And that great thing is, this book really does put all that information in one place. So you're not hunting for letters, hunting for pieces of paper. And this will be for the first 250 people. It does always disappear very quickly. So the first 250 people, just to secure the deals tonight. That's all you need to do tonight. You don't need any information. You perhaps don't even really know who to leave things with in the will, but you know in your heart you need to write a will. So please just secure the deals. And it's so easy. Whether you want to speak to someone or not speak to someone, there's a way to actually do this. And you can get onto the website, you can text, or you can jump onto the phones. The team are actually there. So website-wise, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. So nice and easy, and we'll show you how that works. You'll fill in a few questions, pop your name and address, really. That's about basically it. And that will secure those prices for you. But then we have got the team on the phones.
Yeah, the team are in the call centre right through till 3 a.m, ready and waiting to take your call. What we would point out over and over again is you don't need any information with you. It's just about securing the offers for you this evening. So 0333 600 2600 is the number if you want to call. But always on these late night shows, the most popular way is the texting service. If you just want to drop a text the word will, WILL, to 66777, and once again that'll secure the deal for you.
How easy is that?
Then the team will get back to you later today, not too early, just after about 11 o'clock in the morning,
yeah.
so you don't have to worry if you're up late with us tonight and
it
getting
is
all the information.
as simple as that. All you're doing is securing the prices. You must do it. Do it right now, because you'll forget tomorrow. It will suddenly be Saturday and you think, oh gosh, the offer finished on Friday, and it'll be too late. So do it right now, because all you're doing is securing those prices. That is it, to make sure you don't miss out. And then you'll organise speaking to the team a little bit later on. But remember, you can go via our website as well. If you're used to shop on TV, go to our website, go to that first page, scroll down, and halfway down, you'll find our on-screen sort of partners,
yeah.
And you'll find, of course, Simpler Law right there. That'll take you through to the prices, the deals that you've got tonight, but remember, only until Friday at close of business, and that's the very simple form that you need to fill in. So remember that you do need to go to Simpler Law, but you can do it via our website as well. But it's really great to have your company, and I really truly believe if you haven't written a will or a lasting power of attorney, please sit and watch, because I think there's so much we didn't realise that is actually already written for you if you don't write your thing, you know what you want to happen yourself, and you'll kick yourself if something does happen and then the family fall out because they know what you wanted to happen, but it's not happening because the government has fallen into place. But we'll talk more about that through the show.
And we've got two of the team from Simpler Law with us. Ian and Charlotte are with us once again. Lovely to see you both.
Hello, hello.
Now, let's start right at the beginning, Ian. It's so important, isn't it, for everyone to have a will?
It really is. I think, we've been doing these shows a number of years now, and a big reason for that is there's lots of myths and misconceptions around estate planning. You've hit the nail on the head when you said you've finally figured out you've been together 34 years, which is great.
Yeah, just.
But, and you're honest about you're unmarried, and so you assume, like a lot of people would, that if one of you passed away, it would automatically go to the other. Unfortunately, without making a will, that just doesn't happen. And this happens, sadly, it happens daily. So there is something called a government will. It's called the rules of intestacy. And if you don't make your own will, you are accepting that government will. And there's a lot of people who don't really understand that. And why would they? Because we don't wake up on a Saturday morning and go on a search engine and type, what happens when I pass away? But we live in a land of law, so if you think about it logically, there has to be a default position if you don't make your own will.
Yeah, because it seems really unfair, but there has to be something.
It'd be anarchy otherwise, and we hear a lot that, well, my son knows what I want to happen, my daughter knows what I want to happen, or my best friend knows what I want to happen. That may very well be the case, but they've got no legal authority to carry out your wishes.
And if it hasn't been legally written, this is what happens. It's sort of yes/no answers, isn't it?
It's when you've passed away, you're asked a series of questions about the person that's passed away, and believe it or not, it all starts with the marital status. And another myth that often comes up is people like yourselves that have been together for decades. We hear this term like common law husband and wife.
Yeah, that was us, yeah.
And there's no legal, that is not a legal definition. You're either married and in a civil partnership, or you're not.
Yeah.
And so it all starts with your marital status, and then it's all about your bloodline. And these rules, this government will was actually originally put in legislation in 1925, so it's going to be 100 years old this year.
So it doesn't even work, even if you are married. It's more complicated than just being married, because if you've got, perhaps you're remarried, perhaps you've got children from different relationships, that gets very complicated as well, because they don't fit into that government will, do they?
Absolutely. Yeah, even spouses aren't guaranteed to inherit everything from each other under the government will. There's a limit to what you can inherit, and then it gets very complicated. But you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. It's not unusual for Charlotte or her team to speak to a couple who might be on the second marriage. They may have children together. They may have children from previous relationships. And it's actually, it sounds a little bit melodramatic, but it's the government will that actually rips that family apart at the worst possible time.
Of course.
Because who you think was going to inherit often doesn't. And unfortunately, the first person in that relationship that passes away, it's often their children that actually inherit nothing, because when the survivor passes away, everything goes down their bloodline only. And people are astonished to learn this, or they find out when it's then too late to do anything about it. So if you're listening to me this morning, there might be a reason the planets have aligned. All you have to do is text the word will to 66777. You can do something amazing, not just for yourself, but for your family. Don't leave it to chance. Please don't leave it to the government to deal with your estate. Let your last act be yours.
And it's not just the money, is it? You can do so much with a will.
Well, this is it. Yeah, the government will, because it's a default position, is generic. We're just an account number. But when you make your own will, every single will we write is bespoke.
Yeah.
It's not our will,
it's what you
yours.
want, isn't it?
So you choose who's going to administer it. So first and foremost, you can choose your executors, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through the show. But you can also choose things like what age your children inherit, which we know when we speak to most parents, if they've got minor children under 18, a lot of parents don't want the kids to inherit 18. They want them to be 21, 23 when they think might be a little bit older. You can even pass on your guardianship. You can pass on your parental responsibility through a will. Most parents, whilst it's a horrible thought, would know who they'd want their children to go to.
Definitely, yes.
If they weren't around.
Or who they wouldn't want them to go to, definitely.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, people might know that choice, but unless it's written down in a legally binding document, there's no guarantee it's going to happen. So making a will is really selfless, but I promise you, you'll get something out of it. And if you're lucky, you'll get to speak to Charlotte as well.
Yeah, that's a
If you're
great
lucky.
point, actually, Charlotte, because you're one of the team in the call centre a lot of the time,
Yes,
aren't you?
yeah.
You take the calls. Now, if anybody gets in touch tonight, they don't need any documentation with them. It's just about securing the deals.
No, it's just taking that first step. That's the hardest part. Once you've done that, we will do everything else for you. We're really proud in the fact that we can say it is, without being patronising, like a hand-holding service
is, yeah.
from start to finish. As long as you've taken that first step, we'll book in a time and date that's best for you in the comfort of your own home, sit with a nice cup of tea on the sofa, and we'll go at your pace.
That's another great point, because a lot of people think they'd have to go into an office and
Yeah.
sit down with someone, but it's all done from your comfort of your home.
All done from the comfort of your own home and at a time that's best for you.
Great.
We'll work around you, but we just want you to take that first step and get in touch today.
Now, we did also mention, and we are going to go more into depth about this, but let's just briefly touch on lasting powers of attorney.
Yeah, and we know you about lasting
Yeah.
powers of attorney,
Yes.
because we actually did my mum's lasting power of attorney with Simple Law before we worked with them, before we actually knew they were coming on Shop on TV many years ago. And like, it is a handheld sort of experience. You do feel so comfortable, because me and Mum are the biggest worriers. But it was lasting power of attorney that we came to you for, because we'd heard about it and heard how important it was. But I think a lot of people out there will not have heard it. We'd only heard about it because of circumstance.
Yeah,
haven't
you
we?
might have heard of
Yeah.
the term, but you might not know what it is. So can you briefly explain what lasting power of attorney is?
Of course, yeah. So lasting powers of attorney are documents where if you've lost your capacity, these allow you to nominate who you trust to essentially step into your shoes and act for you. So they become you in any sense of the word. So if you are unable to, well, losing your capacity, it could be ill health.
Yeah.
It could be a
Be an
freak
accident,
accident, yeah. A lot of people relate them to old age because you see a lot of ill health and dementia is quite prevalent with old age, but it could be anything. And then, end of the day, once you're 18, you've got bank accounts, property, anything. These things don't stop if you lose your capacity. So whoever you nominate can go to the bank.
So they basically become you, don't
Yeah,
they, when
they
it comes to
basically become
decision
you.
making?
You donate your powers to them
And
to make your decisions for you.
yourself as the person that has perhaps become very poorly or perhaps been in a serious accident. If it was your partner or if it was my mum, you'd presume that you
It's the
could actually
assumption
step into
again,
their
yeah.
shoes anyhow and, you know, deal with their affairs, especially if you're married and you've got joint accounts and things.
Yeah.
But that's not the case,
No,
is it?
it's that same assumption, I think, a lot of the time with a will as well. You just assume that people know.
It'll be okay.
Yeah, you know, it's my mum, why wouldn't I be able
Yeah.
to? Or we're married. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, in the eyes of the law, once you've lost capacity, you know, if you go into a bank now and ask to access that account, the first thing they're going to say is, are you the account holder?
So
They're going to
true,
go through
yeah.
data protection. You're not going
Yeah.
to be able to go through that.
It just stops there. doesn't it?
Exactly.
Now, there are two different kinds of lasting power of attorney, aren't there?
Yes.
So we're talking about the financial one first that you're referring
Yeah,
to.
so the financial one is, as it says, really anything from my financial point of view. So whoever you've chosen on your power of attorney, they would step in and access your bank accounts. They can keep paying those bills. They can claim benefits if you're receiving benefits and pensions, manage property, anything to do with your finances, they can handle for
I
you.
love what it says at the bottom of that screen. Essentially, you choose someone to trust to manage your affairs in the eyes of all the institutions and companies that they deal with. They essentially become you. So that's the first one, the financial one. But the second one, I don't know.
Well, we didn't even realise there was a second one. We went for the financial side of it. And then there was, as we sat down and chatted, and it is just a sit-down conversation, it's so easy. You mentioned then the second lasting power of attorney, and because it is about the health of your loved one and how they're looked after and things, I was like, this mum is just as important as the financial side. So we did both with you.
Yeah, I think the health one's a lot more personal because everyone can relate to the financial side, because money makes the world go around. That doesn't just stop because you've lost your capacity. So with the health document, this one allows, they can be the same people or different, but whoever you trust to step into your shoes and decide where you're living. So if they want to care for you at home themselves, they can do that. If you need to go into a care home, they can decide which care home that is, discuss medication, even down to what you're wearing and what you're eating.
Yeah, which is so important.
I think you can take for granted because these are things we do every day, aren't they? But you know,
if you know someone's a vegetarian or they like to wear red lipstick, and it's really important to them, they should still be that same person.
It's what makes you you, and you've got to remember the ones that are closest to you are going to want to be able to care for you in that sense. So it is beneficial for you, but in a selfish way, you're actually looking after your loved ones as well and giving them that power. So on a power of attorney, you are actually called the donor because you are donating your power to those people that you trust. So whether it be family, whether it be friends, whoever you choose, they just have the power to be able to do that for you if you're unable to. Really powerful.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? And the other thing, Ian, if the lasting power of attorney isn't in place, again, there's a whole process you have to go through, isn't there?
Yeah, the only route open to either a close friend or a member of the family is they have to apply for something called a deputyship order through the Court of Protection. So then you're at the mercy of the courts, and if you are to deal with the court application, the paperwork side is horrific to start with.
You say the paperwork is so thick, but actually the cost, you've also got to find these costs.
The cost is awful because, you know, just to apply costs more than what we're saying will produce a lasting power of attorney for you for this evening. But it's worse than that because it's the time that it takes. So our experience of court protection applications is they're taking over a year before the application is granted.
Gosh.
And of course that means that the loved one is actually spending time dealing with administrative and bureaucratic issues in the court rather than looking after the loved one. So whilst the lasting power of attorney is not an insurance policy, I call it a what-if document. It's a document you want to have, but then hope that you never need to use it.
Yeah.
Because again, it's quite selfless. I mean, you're going to get something out of it because you know that you've nominated the person or the people that you trust to step into your shoes. Of course, if you lose capacity without doing that, it may be someone that goes to the Court of Protection that you wouldn't have wanted. So again, we do these shows because it's all about control for me. If you make a will, you control what happens when you're no longer here. If you make a lasting power of attorney, you control who can look after you. So it's really selfless, but at the same time, you're getting something out of it. Really, really important documents, really important.
It's really very much, the will is very much your last gift to your loved ones, making sure what you've worked so hard for and goes to the people that you love. It doesn't have to be family members. Perhaps you don't want it to go to family members. You can write all of that down, but it is looking after your children as well, what time in their life they inherit. You know, perhaps you think at 18 it's far too young and you want to make sure that money lasts. And even down to guardianship, there's so many things you can do with that will, but lasting power of attorney, just as important.
It really is. And we are going to go through everything in more depth. So do stay with us. We're here right through until 3 a.m. Want to remind you of the offers once again, and then we'll speak more to Ian and Charlotte, because the offers that we've got, great reductions in prices, but it's such an important thing to do for yourself and also for your family.
And make sure you get these deals as well. It is only up to close of business on Friday. Don't do what I did the other day. I found great deal on some perfume, great discount. Was in my basket, didn't check my basket out, went back to check it out, gone up £40. Have I got any perfume? No. You just need to do it right now. All you're doing is securing these great prices, and do not kick yourself when they go back up. They are great prices to start off with. So Will, I thought would be £1,000, more than £1,000. At £249, it is great value for money. but you have got 40% off, so that goes down £100. But then on top of that, you are saving a further discount as an extra special for our show tonight of £30, so take it down to £119. And when you split that cost, this is you writing the will, making sure everybody you love gets what you want them to have. Over 4 payments, that is just £29.75. And I bet you easily spend that on coffee. We went to London the other day, and that would be 2 glasses of wine if you're lucky.
You wouldn't even get 2 glasses of wine.
So you would easily spend that elsewhere, but that is making sure your last gift to your loved ones is what you want to happen with what you've worked so hard for. Then the lasting power of attorney that we've just been speaking about, again, great value for money.
The suggested retail price there of $349 with the 40% off is a great price at $209, but Simpler Law of Offer does an extra discount of £20, so it comes down to £189, and that's a huge saving of $160. With 4 interest-free payments, it's just $47.25 on your first of 4 payments. But the biggest value, the biggest saving, I should say, is if you go for will and lasting power of attorney. That suggested retail of £598. It comes down with the 40% off to $358. Another £80 off as our bonus discount for you. Comes down to $278. And with those interest-free payments, it's just $69.50.
You're actually saving more than you're spending
Much more, yeah.
on that deal, which is brilliant. And don't worry, if you secure the deals tonight, if you're thinking, well, I'll just do the will, and as you watch the programme, think, oh gosh, I wish I'd said will and lasting power of attorney. If you've secured the deals, however you've done it, on the website, on the phones, by texting, you will honestly get whatever deal, if you decide, well, actually, I said I'd just do the will, but I want to do lasting power of attorney and the will, they will allow you to have that price. By getting in touch, you're securing any of those prices for any of those combinations.
Really straightforward and easy to get in touch as well. We'll just remind you, and then we've got lots more details to go into why it's so important. So if you go to the website, simplerlaw.co.uk /shop on TV, that'll take you through to the exclusive offers. Remember, you need very little information. You don't need any literature with you. It's a very, very simple and straightforward process. Or you can call the team. The team are all there in the call centre right now, right through till 3 a.m. At this point, it's probably very busy at this time. If you want to call, though, they are there, they're waiting. 0333 600 2600 is the number to call.
And remember, you don't need to know anything, you're just securing that deal tonight. But if you want to ask a couple of questions, you can, but the team will get back to you. Sort out a date that's right for you. Even if you're going on holiday tomorrow for 2 weeks, that's fine. They'll sort out a date later on that's right to actually sit down and truly talk about all and everything. What you're doing is making sure you get these prices tonight. One of the easiest ways to get in contact, because perhaps you're sat at home right now and you don't fancy talking to anybody, you're going to go to bed in a bit, or perhaps you've spoken to people all day and the last thing you want to do is have another conversation. Use the text. And I love, this is the best way. Text just the word will to 66777. That's it. You've secured all of those deals. The team will get back to you, and you've made sure as well that you will be one of those first people to get the book. And what my family should know, there's only 250 of those, so it will be the first 250 people that secure the deals that will get the book as well. So make sure you do that right now. Just text that word will, and it's as simple as that. And you can do that so quickly and so easily to 66777. And this book is a bit like every bit of information anybody would need that your loved ones will need
so
when you do pass it. It's all right there. They're not hunting for the secret places. They're not hunting for that piece of paper, that letter. And one of the biggest things, I think, which we don't even think about, is in there you put your passwords as well to your tablet and to your phone. Because sometimes some of the most precious photographs are on your phone or on your tablet, or perhaps information, emails, because we don't have so many letters now. People need to get onto that email and can't if they haven't got the password. A family member had that problem not that long ago, and a gentleman died, and a granddad, a dad, and the family were devastated, didn't have any idea it was going to happen. And they had vital information they needed off his tablet, and nobody knew the password. And they were like, "What? How are we going to get that information?" And luckily, the grandson was there and he went, I know Grandad's
He used to play on the tablet, so he knew
password.
the password. But it was only,
and they would
only luck.
never have got that information if it hadn't have been for that little bit of luck. So it's all written in that book, so make sure you get that book as well.
Now remember, you can get in touch through our website. If you're a regular viewer and you go to our website, shopontv.co.uk, you can see there, just scroll down to our partnerships and you'll see click on Simpler Law and it takes you straight through to the exclusive offers, and you just fill in those basic details right there. But we are going to go more into depth, tell you more information, and it's really important, I think, to point out that they are experts, Simpler Law, when it comes to the field. Ian, as far as your company goes, this is what you do, isn't it?
This is all we specialise in, yeah. We offer a full range of private client legal services, but at the heart of everything we do is the will, because that's what people understand. But we don't have to outsource any work because of intelligent people like Charlotte, and certainly more intelligent people than me. I'd be nice to you tonight. Yeah. But on a serious note, yeah, this is always specialising. So you wouldn't come to Charlotte and I for, a boundary dispute or a personal injury claim or a divorce, for example. But if you want to protect your assets, if you want to look after your family, then come to us, because this is all we do. Everything we do is also insured. We're insured for up to £5 million. So if we make a mistake, you and your beneficiaries are protected. And touch wood, we haven't made a mistake. We've got well over 250,000 clients. And what's really interesting, but it's an obvious statement, is no one will has been repeated. They're all unique. They're all bespoke for our client, because it's your document, it's not ours.
Great point.
It's your situation, it's your house, it's your family. It's your watch that you might want to leave to your son. It's your car that you might want to leave to your daughter. That kind of thing. It's personal. The reason we want people to make a will is the government will. The rules of intestacy are not personal. And so everything that you think or would like to happen genuinely never does, because it doesn't take into consideration personal wishes.
And I think a lot of people don't realise that, because you'll think, you think, there is if you haven't written a will, you have actually got a will, and we didn't realise that, and that is that government will.
That's the default position, yeah. It's really simple. When you pass away, which no one wants to think about, but when the inevitable happens, when you pass away, you either pass away with your own will in place, and that's your last gift to your family, it's your last act on planet Earth, and it's your act because it's your will. Or if you've not made a will, it doesn't matter that people might know what you want, because there isn't a legally binding will there. Unfortunately, the default position then is the statement is you're said to have died intestate, which means the rules of intestacy then kick in, which is the government will. And that is basically then a series of questions that's asked about your marital status, asked about your bloodline, and frankly doesn't care about you or your family. It's just a default position to make sure your estate gets administered. And it doesn't care about you.
We can see it's just a series of yes/no questions, and it goes from one question to another.
And it's 100 years old, isn't it?
Yeah, and it sounds like I'm being critical of it, but if you think about it, that's the best that we can do, really. It's got
to be something, hasn't there?
There has to be something, otherwise there would be anarchy, and you'd have 10 people turning up saying, well, my dad said this and my dad said that. So that's why a will is so important. It really is selfless, but hopefully we've demonstrated by doing these shows that it's not expensive. I like when you say cup of coffee. I stopped at a certain chain and bought my pretentious drink the other day. I'll have a coconut vanilla latte. I feel stupid every time I order it. I feel even more stupid when it's over £6
for one drink.
Yeah, but I won't buy a can of coffee until it's on offer. But I'll pay. Anyway, that's the logic of it. So we will spend money on things that we want, and people don't think they want a will, and I get that. And let's be honest, there are sexier things to spend your money on. But here's something I always say, it sounds dead cheesy, but it's absolutely true. Nobody ever regrets making a will.
No.
There's nothing to regret about taking half an hour out of your day, speaking to someone like Charlotte or a member of her team, and actually doing something amazing for your family. It's not something you regret, but sadly, and all too often, your family or families regret that they didn't have a will.
So often there's the family fallout, isn't there? And especially because if you are in a situation where you've got children from different relationships, because it is this bloodline that it goes through, if it's the government will, if you haven't written a will, that government will just take it down the bloodline. It then is like a gamble as to who dies first, whose children actually, bloodline children gets the money.
Yeah, people are often shocked by this.
I was really shocked by this.
You might have been together for 20, 30 years, and whilst you might be referred to as a blended family or a dynamic family, you see each other, you know, they don't even see the children as stepchildren. It's my son, my daughter, and they don't see each other as stepbrother or stepsister. It's brother and sister, for example. But again, we come back to the law, and you're either someone's son or you're not. So there's a bloodline. So forgive the finger puppets, but yeah, if it's not unusual for us to come across a couple that might be on the second marriage, and if they have had children from a previous relationship, if they're married now, and let's say their estate's worth £200,000, if Mr. passed away first, that £200,000 would pass to Mrs. That's perfectly reasonable. That's what most people want to happen. But then when Mrs. dies, when she passes away, it will follow her bloodline, and that 200,000 would go down to her children, and Mr's children will get nothing. And that's where people go, well, that won't happen. And it's like, well, sadly, that is exactly what happens. And then sometimes we hear, well, I'm sure my daughter or my son would do the right thing. That's a huge amount of pressure. And we never, the only people who really know what's going on in a relationship or you know their own financial situation is that person. So you might think that someone's okay, but then you have to ask the question, well, what about your son or your daughter's husband or wife or partner? Will they influence it? And it's just not worth the risk.
No. And they're grieving.
Yeah, that's it.
It's the worst
Emotions
time,
are
isn't it?
It's
so high, aren't they?
It's the single biggest reason for a breakdown in a family relationship is following a bereavement, and typically when there's no will, because everyone deep down knows that what's happening isn't what the person who passed away wanted to happen. So I know I labour this point a lot, but it genuinely is a selfless thing that you're doing when you make a will. But it's also remarkable. It's such a tiny bit of time to give yourself. None of us have got any time to do anything, but I can stare at my phone and 40 minutes have passed by and I don't know. I've just doom scrolled. I think that's the word. And I think I've got no time to go to the gym, as you can tell, but I can look at my phone for 40 minutes.
Of course.
And look, this is a very similar thing. You know, as you're listening to me now, you've probably got the phone at the side of you.
Yeah.
How difficult is it to pick it up and type the word will and send it to 66777? That's all you need to do tonight. And I would argue that's actually the hardest part of this process.
It is, isn't it?
Is getting in touch with someone like Charlotte. Because once you then speak to Charlotte or someone in the client care team, I promise you won't regret it.
We're like that with so many things, aren't we? I often mention this. Mum needed her patio doing, and we just didn't get anyone to come round for, gosh, it was treacherous. It was a trip hazard. And probably for about 6 years, this patio needed doing. And it was that first step to actually ring someone to say, come round. As soon as we did that, it was done within
It's just getting the ball in motion, isn't it?
And it was the best thing ever. She's so happy. And it is. And it's a weight off your shoulders when you realise you have actually written that will and what you want to happen to what you've worked so hard for, or what you want to happen to your puppy, your dog. You in your will, you can stipulate anything. And also, Charlotte, I think lots of people do worry that perhaps they don't want to give to some family members, or their will's going to be more complicated. It's going to be too complicated.
Yeah.
It's never going to be too complicated, is it?
No, never. It's usually the clients that say they're going to have a really easy will. The other ones end up being more complicated. Yeah. But no, there's no scenario genuinely that we can't help you with. So all we're asking is you just to take that first step, because as you've just mentioned, anything with regards to, for example, exclusions, I know it can be a really hard topic for a lot of clients if they've got family disputes going on, but a will is so powerful that if there is someone you don't want to inherit, you can actually put that in there so that you know that the people you want to inherit is where your estate is going to go to. But there's so much more that you can do with a will.
I think initially you just think about money, don't you? Your actual monetary estate.
Going. Yeah.
But there's so, in fact, we've got a list of things that we can show you, all the different things that you can do with your will, including things like guardianship, choosing executors, for example, because some people might, what does that mean, choosing executors?
So your executors, essentially, they're in charge of your will, so they distribute your estate. It's called probate when you've passed away, but they're in charge of distributing your assets and following your will, essentially. So with executors, again, having your own will means it's your choice.
Right.
So you could have your own executors, so we call them lay executors, so unprofessionals, your family, your friends, whoever you would trust do that for you. Yeah. You can have a professional, so we can act as executors for you if you'd rather take that pressure off of those people and know that it's handled by us. You can have a mix. Again, the whole point of putting a will in place is it's your choice, and you can make it yours and personalise it for you. And that's, as we go through the consultation, we can give you that advice at the time as well. But you've mentioned guardianships.
Yeah.
I'd not thought of this, because if the worst happened and two parents died, you think, well, what would happen with the children? And then when you think about it, possibly both grandparents will step forward, or a sister and a grandparent, and
this is what you've got
that
to
will make
consider.
it really complicated.
Yeah,
won't it?
by putting the will in place, you can actually put a guardianship clause in there. So as you said previously, and a lot of parents will know who they'd like their guardians to be, or they've got an idea of who they'd want. If you haven't got that will in place, then you're essentially relying on the right person to step forward. And as you've said, if you've got a tight-knit family, you could have two sets of grandparents that have, they've got their hearts in the right place, they've stepped forward,
But then they'll be in
ultimately there's going to be a
dispute,
dispute because who's going to have the children? And at the heart of it all, you've got two underage, or however many underage children that have lost their parents, and now their family's in a dispute, when all it takes is for you to just take that first step and put that will in place.
If you give up half an hour of your time to speak to someone like Charlotte, seriously, it'll be the best half an hour you've spent, and you take control of everything that happens. We don't want to dwell, and actually some people put off making a will because they think it's going to be morbid, or they think it's going to be complicated. And it's only actually when you speak to a member of the client care team, you realise it's none of those things. It's, it's just a plan, and then you can put it away and forget about it because you did it. But it's all about taking control. Things as important as guardianship. If you think about it as a parent, do you really want to, you don't want to think about not being there to see your children grow up. But if you're not there to see your children grow up, do you really want someone who's never met you,
leave it to chance,
never met your family, never met the people who are vying to look after your children, to choose, when deep down you probably know, well, I'd want them to go to my mum and dad, or I want them to go to my sister, or I want them to go to my best friend. It's such a personal thing. But I keep coming back to the point. I talk about control a lot, but it's your will, it's your family, and this is the only way that you can actually control what happens when you're no longer here. It's such an important document, and we just keep putting it off, or we're sort of convinced by the pub quiz champion that you don't need a will because everything will be okay. I've heard every excuse over the last quarter of a century, and it frustrates me a little bit. I take it far too personally because I'm like, that's wrong. The only way to guarantee that what you want to happen is going to happen is to have a valid will in place.
And even if you've got godparents to your children, because we're godparents to so many children, I was like, we're going to have, we'll have to have
a big enough house.
We have to have them all in. There's a lot of children. But actually, that isn't a legally binding. That doesn't mean that we'd have the children if the parents passed.
No, and it may signify that the godparents are the people they would want to be the guardians, but it doesn't pass any. There's no legal authority in a godparent. It's a religious position, isn't it? So again, if you wanted godparents to be guardians, if the worst happened to both parents, you simply tell someone like Charlotte, and we put that in your will for you, and you can pass on your parental responsibility to the children's godparents in the same way you can pass on money to your loved ones. It works in exactly the same way, but you do that through a will. You can't do it through word of mouth.
No, of course, it has to be recorded in a legally binding document. Now, if anyone out there is thinking, well, I've seen wills that you can do yourself. I know this is a bit of a bugbear of yours.
Because there's lots of different ways to do wills, but it is really important to do
with a
legally binding will with an expert, yes.
Like anything else, the information about lots of things is available now. We can all do or learn a lot more. And look, let's be really, really honest. You can make your own will, and there are templates that will help do that for you. But unless you've got the experience and the knowledge, and I'm going to be nice again, Charlotte.
Gosh.
Take all this.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, unless you do this for a living, you are trained, and we have people with industry-specific qualifications. This is all we do, remember. So we'll know how to maximise your tax allowances. We'll know how's best to write something, and we'll know how to document it correctly, and we'll also help you with the attestation, which is a posh way of saying making sure it's dated, signed and witnessed correctly.
Because that's really important.
All of that stuff is important. We don't just phone you after you've texted us tonight and said, there's your will, good luck. We hold your hand, like Charlotte said, not in a patronising way, but to make sure that you're 100% happy with the instructions you've given us, you're 100% happy with the documents that you've got, and that they're signed, dated and witnessed correctly, because that's the only way that they can be valid. Even in this digital age, they need a wet signature. So we help you with all of that. When you try and do this yourself, I guarantee you won't have the knowledge that Charlotte's got unless you're a qualified will writer.
Yeah, of course.
So why would you do it yourself? I got a toothache. I needed a root canal last year, which I bored everyone with. And funnily enough, I went to a dentist. I didn't look up a video to see how I could do it myself. And I know I'm being a little bit facetious. But I drive a car like millions of people do. All I know about a car is I get in and I start it and I drive it. If something went wrong with the engine, I take it to a garage, I take it to a mechanic. You know, there are experts in fields, and there's lots of things you can do yourself.
Things can go wrong, can't they?
I once fitted a kitchen.
Oh.
Things
I
can go
can't
wrong.
picture that.
You do things yourself.
I had a little bit of PTSD there, as you saw. I couldn't help but put my hands to my face. I
It was a
apologise.
flashback.
Are you still
It was
married?
a flashback. No, it was my first marriage.
Oh no!
But,
After the kitchen.
but I remember it took me much longer than I thought it would, and I was really proud of it. But at the same time, I didn't genuinely, I know this sounds like a metaphor, but I genuinely didn't have the correct tools and the right knowledge.
Yeah,
so I did an okay job, and that's all it was. But then my friend, who ironically is a joiner, came round and he just started howling, going, "Why didn't you scribe?" I didn't know what scribe meant. So, look, we all know what we know.
Yeah.
Getting back on topic, of course you can make your own will. The funny thing is you still have to pay for a template.
Yeah.
So if you're going to pay for something, that template isn't going to give you Charlotte's knowledge. It's not going to ensure any advice that you give. And guess what? You're not going to get any advice because there's no one to give you advice. So you're just following the basic things. And so many people get it wrong.
Yeah.
And that's arguably even more frustrating.
I guess because they
that's
know
the
what they want to
intention.
happen.
Someone's gone, I'm
And
definitely,
they
yes.
think they've written it down,
Yeah.
but because it's been written down incorrectly. Wasn't
It's
there a
not valid,
story
yeah.
of were they grandparents and they did their own will, but it was, again, first death, how they'd written it.
We'd done wills for the children, and they phoned us and asked, they basically told us the situation and said, Dad made his own will, and he used a template, I think, from a certain high street retailer, and he'd written that he wanted £20,000 to go to each grandchild. Now, he owned the house outright, and his wife obviously lived with him, but the way that he'd written the wills meant that the cash gifts were going to go to the grandchildren when he passed away, rather than what the intention was, which everyone understood, was the cash gifts should go after both of them passed
they'd
away. The
both
house and everything should have gone to his wife, and there should have been cash gifts written in both wills. We call it a second death gift, which sounds a bit geeky, but when there's two of you, there's a first death and a second death. Worse still, when he wrote the wills and he'd not been and revisited them or updated them, there was 3 grandchildren, so he sort of, in his own mind, had set aside £60,000. When he died, there was 8.
Oh God.
So there was
That's a
£160,000.
very different figure, isn't it?
The only way those cash gifts could be made was to sell the house, which wasn't the intention, because now where's his wife going to live, because she didn't own the house. So it got very messy very quickly. And if you speak to an expert who does this day in, day out, that would have been, we honestly we would do that in 10, 15 minutes and it'd be right. And again, I stress, if we make a mistake like that, you're insured for up to £5 million for any losses that we create, and touch wood, we've never had a claim because, you know, Charlotte's not bad.
Well, you are award winning, aren't you? Which is
Yes, we
which
are,
is
yeah.
so well deserved, because you have got an incredible team, haven't you?
No, it was all me, that.
And I knew it was going to end up at some point.
Of course, you know, when we were put forward for that award, we won the estate planning firm of the year at the British Wills and Probate Awards last year. Yeah, it was a really proud moment for us because, you know, we've been doing this for years and years and years. It was recognition of what we do in the sector and what we do for our clients. And of course, it's not just Charlotte, it's all of Charlotte's team, it's all of the support staff, it's all of the administration staff, it's even down to the people, because this might sound like a really basic thing, but the documents are professionally bound. They're not just sent out with a staple. There's a lot of time and effort goes into making sure that what you get is absolutely top notch and is going to work. So, you know, we were sort of assessed on all of that, and yeah, we won. And I might have had one drink too many that night.
That's what you
But no, in all seriousness, very, very, very proud of that.
Yeah.
Well, so many of the 5-star reviews, and I know when we dealt with Simpler Law, and it was way before we worked alongside them, we dealt with them for Mum's lasting power of attorney. The lady that the ladies, but I dealt with 2 ladies, they became friends really, and never one point did I think a question was silly.
Yeah,
and I always do. I worry. I'm always thinking I'll ask the wrong thing. I don't know. Anything to do with law terrifies me. If there's a police car, I did it last night. Police car on the bridge. Oh, was I driving too fast? And then we fell out all the way home. I'm like, I was driving too fast. And he's like, you weren't driving too
Stop
fast. Mate.
panicking.
He's like, don't panic. They were just sat on the bridge. But was instantly guilty. And I just find everything terrifying. And we went into this meeting on a sort of a Zoom call, absolutely petrified, both of us, because Mum's 3,000 times worse than me. And you were so calming. It was so easy. We didn't need to know anything. We didn't need to panic that we should have all this information. Because from a simple conversation, whether it's the will or the lasting power of attorney, you get the right information out of us without us even realising.
Exactly. You might know all the answers, you might not, but we ask the right questions to get all of that information from you. And genuinely, a lot of clients actually might have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
They come, being a little bit nervous or thinking, oh, this might be a bit daunting. We take you to a dark place for a couple of moments to ask those difficult questions. But on the whole, it is a nice experience. And most of the all of the clients will get to the end of the consultation and actually go, that's a weight lifted.
Relief.
There is a relief somewhere in there, whether it is that weight you realise that was there, but it's no client ever regrets making a will, ever. You get to the end and think, oh, what a great thing I've done. Put it to the side and move on.
And you've done it for yourself and for your family.
Exactly, but we're really...
And there's absolutely no risk to this, is there? That's the thing, there's no risk. If as you're going through this process, if you think, oh, do you know what, I don't like Charlotte, I don't want to make a will, just say, I'm cancelling, can I have my money back? We'll give you your money back.
Yeah.
But I cut across Charlotte there because she's absolutely right, that at the end of every consultation, everyone's really, they're kind of thanking themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
And some people find out there was a weight there or a problem there that they couldn't have known until they went through this process.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting for them because then there's that moment of, oh my God, if I hadn't done this.
Yeah.
And you can only know that if you send that text tonight. So honestly, if you sat next to your phone, please just text the word will to 66777 and I promise you it'll be an amazing thing that you've not just done for yourself but for your family and you won't regret it. But the caveat is, here's the asterisk, if you do and you think, you know what, I wish I'd not done that, we'll just give you your money back.
That's great. Now, we talked about the people you connect with when you make an appointment. Charlotte, we've got a great review actually, a review about you.
Well, the reviews, it's funny.
It's all about the people,
they love
isn't
the
it?
service, but when they actually write the review, everybody talks about the individual person they dealt with, not with simpler law.
No.
You do become a friend,
Yeah,
really.
and that's what we're really proud of, and it shows there, as we've just said.
And like we can see here, for you.
Yeah, my consultation was done by Charlotte. She was very professional, explained through thoroughly through each stage, making sure it was firstly what I wanted and also that I understood any advice she gave me. Excellent service. I think that's a great point because you are scared because it's a legal document and you are a little bit apprehensive, but the way you explain everything, it puts in layman's terms, if you like.
Yeah, that's it.
Definitely. We won't produce a document unless you're 100% happy with it and understand all the advice we've given. We'll give you the advice, but again, it's your document. It's your choice, it's decision whether you take our advice, some of it or none of it. That's entirely up to you. We're only there to help and assist you with that.
Great.
But we won't produce that document until you're 100% happy with it. So as long as you understand everything and you're happy, then, at the end of the day, we've done our job. We don't leave it there.
Yeah.
We help you with everything up to the signing, but we won't do anything without you being fully 100% happy.
The key thing is it's your document.
It's yours.
Yeah.
I love you always say that.
That's the key in all of this. I always like what Hayley says when she says it's your last gift.
Yeah.
It is,
I refer to it as your last act because, to be honest with you, we've all seen movies where the reading of the will and it can be quite dramatic. But in truth, your will is the last act on planet Earth. So I want it to be mine. Some would argue I haven't worked hard, but I've worked hard for what I've got. And I obviously want to look after my wife and I want to look after my children. And all my wishes are set out in a legally binding document. So my last act on planet Earth will be mine.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a will, that wouldn't be my last act. And actually the last thing that would happen to everything I've worked hard for will be decided by a set of government rules that doesn't care about me or my family. And that is honestly the stark contrast. And there is no sort of in-between. There's no grey area in that. As we keep saying, you either pass away with your will, with your instructions, your wishes clearly documented, or you get the government will.
And then it's just taken out of your hands.
Yeah, no one should die.
Yeah, it's not personal at all.
No, it's
one will can't be right for absolutely everybody, can it? And you'll be blown away that what you think is going to happen truly with the government will does not happen. If you're like us, we've been together possibly longer than a lot of married people, 34 years, I think. But we wouldn't be entitled to either of each other's money because we're not married. So we don't go with the government will. If you are married, but perhaps you're on a second marriage and you've got children from different families or your different partners, again, it's down the bloodline. So if one partner dies first, the money then goes to the second, well, part of your money goes to the other partner. But then when they die, it will only go to their blood children. And this could break up a whole family. And even as well, and we will talk about this a bit later, if you're an individual, perhaps you are, you know, we've got a really moving story about a gentleman in his 40s that died, and he didn't have children, he wasn't married, and he hadn't written a will. And in my heart, we don't know, but I think, well, they probably thought, well, I'll wait till I get married, I'll wait till... And he was quite wealthy. And when he died, it was a big situation that his money would then go to his parents, but his dad had never bothered with him.
Never been in his life.
Never been in his life. And they had to find his dad, wherever he'd gone off to when he was born, to split the money between his mum and his dad. And I'm sure that was not what he wanted to happen. And it's so important for everybody to have a will.
That's a great point. It doesn't matter what age you are, and even if you think you haven't got anything.
What situation you're in. Yes, that's very true.
A lot of people think, well,
you have got a car, you have got a house, you might have a pet, you might have a beautiful watch that you want to leave to a loved one. You might
Just
have a really great
gifts.
friend that's looked after you for years, and you would really like to give something to them, but none of that will happen unless it's been written in a legal will.
Let's take a look at the offers once again, because the offers that Simpler Law bring us are great for the monetary saving, but it is that last gift, like we said. So take a look first of all at the will itself. The price should be £249. We had a 40% reduction down to £149, but Simpler Law have offered us an extra £30 off. So today's price, just £119. And if you want to spread the cost interest-free, it's just £29.75 on your first of 4 interest-free
And when
payments.
you think how much you spend on coffees, that could be, well, I bet you spend more than that in a week actually on coffee. But in a month, it's crazy, isn't it? It's so little money that will actually create so much and allow what you want to happen when you do pass. Your last gift to your loved ones. Lasting power of attorney, we are going to go into that in more detail again. Normally £349. You've got 40% off, so taking away you're going down there to £209 from £349. But then you've got an extra discount of 20, so you're saving in total £160. It's down to £189 tonight, but remember, only up until close of business on Friday, these prices, so you do need to secure these deals. Well, I would say right now, but you've got up until Friday at close of business. You can split that in 4 payments of £47.25, and that is less than one takeaway for us.
Definitely.
So again, so little money, but could solve so many problems in the future.
However, we've also got a joint offer with the will and lasting power of attorney, which should be just under £600, you can see there. With 40% off, it comes down to £358, and then a further discount for the show of £80. So the price today is just £278, or with those 4 interest-free payments, £69.50 on your first of 4 payments. Remember,
that's better than half price.
Yeah.
Such a cracking deal.
Such a great deal, it really is. And the first 250 people to get in touch will also receive this great book. It's called What My Family Should Know. It's worth a value of £25, and basically it's a book where you can record everything from your utility bills to your passwords for your phone.
I always say you should have this from birth, but that's perhaps a little bit too early. But from working, from 18, you should definitely have all this information in one place.
How many dummies have you got?
But why did this book come about? Because it's so, when we run out, because you only have 250, people want to buy it because it's such a valued book, isn't it?
It's had a really good response. It was actually born out of our estate administration department. So when you pass away, whether you've got a will or you haven't, someone has to administer your estate. They're typically known as your executors. And part of that job is you obviously have to gather the deceased assets in, and you also have to find out who the liabilities are, and then you follow the wishes. You either follow the government will or your own will. Fingers crossed you've got your own will. But this was born out of the estate administration department because of all the information that you do have to collect. And what was interesting is we discovered that it's believed in the UK there's £5 billion of unclaimed pension pots out there.
£5 billion.
Yeah, I was thinking about this myself. My dad's 81 and he's from Sheffield, and he worked in the steel mills his entire life till he ended up at the council. But I actually only spoke to him recently about the number of different steel places he worked. Now he's drawing his pension, so he's getting his pensions. But if you think about your own parents, would you know how many jobs they've had and whether they paid into a pension?
No.
So 5 billion is unclaimed
Just
in
sat
pension
there.
loss. Yeah, that should be with families.
Gosh.
It's believed there's £2 billion in unclaimed life insurance policies, so there's paid up life insurance policies that haven't been found and claimed upon, and it's believed there's £850 million sat in UK bank accounts that again hasn't been found. So something like this, again, it just helps bring it all together. You can sit down, you know, take your time, document everything. And it's interesting what you said earlier about sometimes people are like, oh, I haven't got very much. But that's because they're perhaps not thinking about selling the house, so they don't see the house as a monetary value, or, you know, they're not thinking of selling the car, but whatever you've got, worth is relative. And it might be something just, you know, it might be a sentimental gift that you want to leave. But we've all got utility bills, we've typically all got emails now, and you make a really good point, and what's being well received in this book is today we don't have photo albums or things like that, things that are really personal and sentimental. Might be in a digital vault somewhere or sitting in a cloud, but of course you need those access details so you can capture things like passwords or pins, and that's a nice thing to pass on to your family. So again, it's a selfless thing, because it's heartbreaking when there's a bereavement and then you've lost material things as well because you know you haven't passed that information on. So that's a long-winded answer to how it was born.
It's also all that time trying to find everything, isn't it?
It's bad enough trying to hunt for the secret places and the box that it's been put in, and for all those different
and you're
bits
dealing
of
with loss
information.
at the same time.
Truthfully, all of this is selfless. Truthfully, all this is
Yeah.
selfless. You're doing it for the people that you love, for the people that you're going to leave behind. But also, sincerely, there is something quite cathartic. You will get value out of it as well, you know, because you'll realise that you've done something amazing. And as we've sort of alluded to previously, when you speak to Charlotte or a member of her client care team, at the end of it, you'll find yourself saying, I'm glad I did that, which you weren't expecting to say. And you might find that a weight that you didn't even know there genuinely has been lifted. But we can only help you achieve that if you send us that text this morning, or you pick up the phone. The teams are there now, so if you phone 0333 600 2600, as you keep saying, you don't need anything tonight, and forgive the pun, other than the will to make a will.
Yeah.
You know, and that is genuinely the hardest thing, because once you speak to Charlotte or a member of her team, you'll realise that it's not morbid, it's not complicated. And as I said, and if you find that it isn't for you, just turn around and say, do you know what, this isn't for me, it's not what I thought it was going to be, can I have my money back please? And we'll say yes.
Brilliant.
But I promise you, maybe if you speak to Charlotte, you might have second thoughts, but
I can't
Couldn't
kick
help
him
it.
from here tonight.
You've been
It's
so
all right.
Tables with two bigger legs.
so nice.
again, in all seriousness, you won't regret doing it.
No, you won't.
They are an amazing team, Charlotte and the team, and they make it so easy. They make it so pleasant, and it's not complicated at all. And it's so affordable, especially if you secure those deals. And there are lots of ways of getting in touch, so however you feel more comfortable. Perhaps you'd rather use the website, so simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. Very simple, just to put your details in there. Click the button, and then you know you've secured those prices. The team will get back to you later on today. Or the team are there, though it is 1 o'clock in the morning, right there on the phone.
Yeah, right through till 3 a.m. But pick up the phone now if you want to call the team. 0333 600 2600 is the number for the call centre. Or the other way to get in touch, if you don't want to speak to anyone, the simplest way of all is just texting the word will, WILL, to 66777. And that will mean someone will get in touch with you later on today. After 11 o'clock, it won't be first thing in the morning. They're not going to wake you up really early.
And that's nice if you don't want to speak to somebody. I think lots of us, I love the competitions where you just text a word. I'm in that competition straight away. And one day I will win a fortune. But the great thing is you're always going to win tonight, because you're texting that word will, and that is your first step to making sure that everything you've worked so hard for, in your heart, you know what you want to go to, who you want it to go to. And whether that's a ring, whether that's a family heirloom, whether that is your house, whether that is financial, whether that is your dog, or whether it's the children you're thinking about. There's so many things you can put into a will. So you've got that, it is your last gift to your loved ones, and you have this peace of mind, this weight lifted off your shoulder. It's one of the best things we did. And actually, if we hadn't have done it, because we're not married, we've been together 34 years, there is a will out there if you haven't written one, and we didn't know that. But if we hadn't have written ours, and we only did it quite recently, when one of us passed, even though we've been together such a long time, we wouldn't have been entitled to each other's money. Yeah. And it's as simple as that. The government will that falls into place isn't right for anybody. But check out as well on our website, if you do think, well, I normally go through your website, that's fine, but you do need to go to Simpler Law. So if you scroll down to the middle area, you'll see there's our partners,
Yeah.
on our...
You just click on that logo on our website, the Simpler Law logo, and it takes you through to the offers, and then you just fill in your details. If you decide tonight to go for the will, and then you change your mind and you want to add in the lasting power of attorney, the team have said they will
honour that.
honour those
the
offers.
prices that we've got, they are the prices, as long as you secure the deal tonight, and you might be sat in there thinking, yeah, I'll just secure the will, and then after you sit with us for another few minutes and learn about the lasting power of attorney, think, oh gosh, I only asked for the will, I wish I put the lasting power of attorney as well.
You can.
They will allow you to do that. You can change your mind. You're securing the prices as long as you get in touch in some way tonight. You've got up until Friday at close of business, but do it now, because you know Friday never comes. It'll be Saturday before you know it. It'll be next year again before you know it.
Life just gets in the way. You start your day tomorrow.
We're nearly into July, aren't we?
Yeah. Very
How
soon.
has that happened? And then it will be Christmas. I think we were, oh gosh, I read how near to Christmas we were.
Let's not talk
we're like
about
halfway to Christmas, aren't we? It's bonkers. And then all of a sudden, again, you haven't done it. And then one day it will just be too late. And you could be looking down, because I truly believe, my dad's looking down. And I truly believe if you're looking down on your family and they're falling apart because they know what you wanted, but it was never legally written down. And now, you know, there's a big upset in the family. You will kick yourself that you didn't get around to writing that will, and it's so easy. Just secure those prices tonight, and you know that will be put in place. But do stay with us, because lasting power of attorney, I think a lot of people, like you always say, might have heard of the words.
I think it's just
but
as
not
important.
Realise,
when you hear what it's all about, and we'll get Charlotte to explain actually right from the start. So, lasting powers of attorney. If people have heard the term, which I think a lot of us have now, because you see it a lot in the news, don't you? Can you explain what it actually means, Charlotte?
Yes. So these are documents that allow you to nominate who you trust to make decisions for you, if you're unable to do so yourself, if you've lost your capacity. So it could be through ill health. It could be a freak accident, but these are documents that you need to put in place now whilst you have got capacity.
Okay.
The documents you hope you never need, but you know, we haven't got a crystal ball, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. At least if you've got them in place, you know that whoever you nominate can essentially act on your behalf. So you can choose family members, it could be friends, it could be a mix of the two, you can have more than one person, but these people essentially step into your shoes and become you, and can make all of those decisions on your behalf if you're unable to, for whatever reason that may be.
And just like wills, in wills you think, well, I've told my family, so that's what's going to happen, and it's not, because there's a government will. It's the same, even if you're thinking, well, it's my husband, it's my wife, it's my mum. Of course, if they're poorly, I can sort the bills out.
That's an assumption.
But legally, you've got no chance. You can't, even if you're married with a joint account, it's
Exactly. If you think you ring up any institution now, the first thing they're going to say is, are you the account holder? They're going to have to do data protection.
Yeah.
So
as soon as you say no,
if you say no, that's it.
It?
You can't go any further. And if you've lost capacity, or that person has lost capacity, they're even more vulnerable at that point. So unfortunately, it isn't the case. Again, you say it's that assumption that you can do these things, but you can't do them now.
No, so why would you when someone's lost capacity?
So I was like, you know, everyone knows I'm looking after mum now. Of course they'll let me sort everything out, but that's exactly right. We went to the bank the other day, and mum was tired, so she sat down, but I had to get mum to the counter for them to deal with anything, because it's not my account.
Exactly right. And even with things like joint assets that you've got, both of you need to agree on those. So if one person has lost capacity, you can't actually close or do anything with those accounts if you haven't got the authorisation from that other person.
The second person in the joint account.
Exactly. So these powers of attorney are such powerful documents, and they're much better to have and never need than to be in a situation where you haven't got them in place and you have lost your capacity.
Now, there are two different types, aren't there? We're talking about all your financial situations, your property and affairs, if you like. So there's a list here on screen of all the things that Charlotte was just talking about, if you like. But I love what it says at the bottom, because it reiterates everything. Essentially, you choose someone to trust to manage your affairs, and in the eyes of the institutions and companies that they deal with, they actually become you. They make all your decisions.
And these things are all really important things that have got to be sorted, but you wouldn't be able to sort them if you didn't have lasting power of attorney.
Exactly right. Money doesn't just stop because you've lost your capacity. So as you can see on there, whoever you nominate can access your bank account, so they can keep paying bills. If you've got a rental property, they can keep claiming rent. You know, if you've got pensions coming in, benefits, managing any property that you do own, anything from a financial point of view, they can keep that running for you on your behalf. So on a power of attorney, you're actually called the donor because you are donating your power to that person. So anything you would normally do with your finances in a day-to-day life, that person or those people, however many you nominate, can do that for you. So these things don't just stop, they're still managed.
Of course.
Really important.
And when we went to Simpler Law, because as was said, we dealt with Simpler Law way before they worked with us here on Shop on TV, and it was a great experience, made it so easy. But we came to you for the lasting power of attorney and financial, because we thought that was all there was the financial side of things. But then you explained there was a second option, which as soon as you explained that second option, to me that was even more
Just as
personal and as important or more important than the financial side was the actual making sure how mum was looked after and things like that if she was poorly.
Yes, this is the health and welfare document. So this one is a lot more personal. A lot of people can relate to the financial one initially, because as we say, money keeps the world going round, doesn't it, at the start. The health and welfare, when we discussed this with a lot of clients, then realise the importance of this one, because it allows you to nominate, well, again, those people can decide where you're living. So if you've got your children, for example, as your attorneys, and they want to care for you at home, or you've made that your wish clear to them, they can do that for you. They can make that decision. If you need to go into a care home, they can choose which care home that is, so it's close to them, for example, or they've got a particular one in mind, they can make that choice. Even who actually doesn't visit you at that care home. So it could be a case of, you know, you've got a really tight-knit family, but unfortunately, you might be estranged from a family member, and if you had the capacity to make that choice, you wouldn't want to see them. But if you've lost your voice for whatever reason, by having that power of attorney, you've got someone you trust to be your voice, so they can actually say no. This isn't what they would want. It is really powerful. These are things we take for granted. You know, you wake up in the morning.
It almost sounds trivial, doesn't it?
It does, You know, you make your breakfast, you get dressed, you go about your day.
Those day-to-day things,
they're
if they're taken away.
Yeah, you know, things as what you're eating and what you're wearing, which again, we take for granted. But if you're a vegetarian, if you like to get your nails done, you can't make those decisions for yourself. Your loved ones are going to know what you do and don't like.
My friend was in a terrible accident sort of 10 years ago now, so only in her 40s. And they were the most important things, you know, how she looked. She was a vegetarian, and it would have been devastating to see them not make sure that was happening in the care home, that she was eating vegetarian, that she had, like, she loves her makeup, puts her makeup on and the clothes she wears, they're all really important things to how she feels better about herself.
It's personal again. It's all about control, and it's personal.
Yeah, exactly.
The lasting power of attorney is your documents, personal to you. You choose who you're going to donate the power to. Without that, you don't know who's going to step into your shoes or who's going to step forward. So, again...
what does happen if you haven't got lasting power of attorney?
Sadly, if life throws you that curveball and you lose capacity either through illness or through an accident, the only route available to your family members, to your loved ones, is to apply for something called a deputyship order through the Court of Protection. That's a really lengthy court process and really expensive to go through.
That's just some of the figures there.
Those costs are if you do it yourself as well. So if you go through all the applications, so as you can see, it's £408 just to apply. So just to get the application form in, you're going to pay £408. And obviously you've got to find this money initially because the person is incapacitated. They usually ask for an assessment, so that's £100. If they ask for a hearing, that's £494. Then there's an ongoing supervision fee, because even if you are granted the deputyship order, the court supervises. Sometimes they give a limit on what you can spend. So there are loads of awful stories out there where someone's been given a deputyship order, but then they have to go to the court to even pay things like their daughter's tuition fees because it's over the limit that the court set.
Oh gosh! So you like your hands are tied for it. Oh.
Yeah, and it's understandable because, you know, the Court of Protection by definition is there to protect the vulnerable person, so they don't assume that the husband, you know, that they were in a good relationship. They, you know, they could have been on the cusp of a divorce. So, you know, but that's even more devastating. So someone that you love has been incapacitated, and then you're having to justify to this third party why you want to help your loved one, but it's understandable at the same time, and it's all avoidable again. It's weird because we'll insure lots of things, we'll insure lots of material things, you know, we'll insure our boiler, we'll insure our pets.
Of course.
You know, we'll insure our cars, and everyone says, yeah, but you have to insure your cars. Well, actually, we only have to have it third party, but
we don't,
most people will pay more and fully comp.
My mum insured her dishwasher for years. Not that long ago, she went, Hayley, do you think I should cancel this? And I said, what are you insuring your dishwasher for? She's got the family dishwasher. She's on her own. Takes her a good week to fill it. She will use it once a week, and we could have bought about 30 dishwashers.
But it's funny how we insure these material things and think about insure these material things.
But not ourselves.
And we forget to look after ourselves. And of course, let's be honest, we're human beings, so it's never going to happen to us. It's always going to happen to someone else, but sadly, we are someone else to everybody else. So I stress again that a lasting power of attorney is not an insurance policy. I call it a what-if document, and that's because I view it like that. It's a document that you want to have and then hope that your family never need to use it. You know, arguably it'd be the best waste of money in the world. I had that document, but if you had a crystal ball and you knew life was going to throw you that curveball, and you knew what your family had to go through the court of protection,
and they've got to find that money, because that money isn't going to come from your loved one. You've got to find that money to get that.
And it's not just the cost, it's taking a year for the courts to get through the application process.
And surely you could have lost your loved one in that year.
Time period,
So before it's even sorted, might be too late.
The worst phone calls we get in the office, and we're not proud of the name that they're given, is it's the too late phone call. We'll get someone that will phone up and say, my dad's just been diagnosed with dementia, can you help? And unfortunately, after that diagnosis, the only route then, if he hasn't done a lasting power of attorney, is the court of protection. So that's why we always talk about do it now. And you know, the cynics are like, oh, it's because you want our business. Let's not be disingenuous. We'd love to have you as a client, but truthfully, we'd love you to be protected as well, because then we know we're not going to get the too late phone call. We will help you put this document together. More importantly, we will help you make sure that it's signed, dated and witnessed correctly.
And that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, because sometimes people can be put off by the size of the document, because to us it's second nature and quite simple because we see it every day. But if you've never seen a lasting power of attorney, sometimes people, I'll get to that. But no, we're there, we're going to help you make sure it's signed, dated, witnessed correctly so that it's valid and ready to go. And then we'll talk to you about these documents have to be registered with a body called the Office of the Public Guardian.
Okay.
Now they might charge their own registration fee. It ranges from £0 to £82.
Okay.
That's as expensive as it's going to be with the Office of Public Guardian, considering we've just seen 1,322 on the screen. It's a drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
But it does have to be registered with the Office of Public Guardian, and we can help you with all of that as well. But the important thing is to have this document, and we'll validate it for you. We'll say to you, this is guaranteed to work if you need it. Yeah. And that's priceless. My wife and I, unsurprisingly, have got 4 documents. We've got, you know, the property and affairs, the health and welfare each. We haven't registered them yet. They're in our secure storage because our boys are getting to an age where they're soon going to be adults, and we might want to change our attorneys.
Okay,
that's a personal preference. Right. But again, we've taken control. If life throws either of us a curveball, we know who can step into our shoes and look after us. So I don't need to worry about that now. And that's what we want all the people, all the viewers this morning to think about. Do you want to do something selfless and amazing for your family? And if you had that crystal ball and knew the life-changing incident was going to happen, you wouldn't hesitate to do it.
No.
So plan for the worst, but then of course hope for the best. A will, it's inevitably going to be used. Not met anyone immortal yet, I don't think. But a lasting power of attorney, obviously is whilst you're alive, and just hope that your family don't need to use it, but it's definitely a document you want to have, and then as I said, just hope you don't need it. Because the alternative at a really bad time, the court protection, is just horrible.
And the cost and the time length it takes.
And it's precious time when you want to be with your loved one, where you should be sitting, looking after them, you know, talking to them, and you're going through all of this, these applications and the price and the fee, and then
those fees, remember,
hearing.
Those fees are if you do it yourself. That's without any expert advice, those fees that you see on screen. The details on our screen to the left of the screen are brilliant pricing if you want to go for the will and lasting power of attorney together. In fact, we'll remind you of all the offers. And if you have just joined us, we'll then talk more about wills. So if you've been thinking about writing a will and you want to take that first step, maybe tonight is the first
I think that's perhaps why you're watching. Sometimes things happen, don't they? You think, oh gosh, I was meant to wake up now and put the TV on because I haven't written a will. And I want you to realise, do stay with us, because if you haven't written a will or a lasting power of attorney, there is a government will. And like a government lasting power of attorney, well, you have to fight for it if you haven't done those things. But please have a look at the prices, Because if you're thinking, I bet it's expensive, it truly isn't. And if you're thinking, I bet it's complicated, with Simpler Law, hand on heart, because we dealt with them prior to them being with us here on Shop on TV, they make everything so easy because they are the professionals. They know the questions to ask. You don't need to know anything apart from, yes, I do need to write a will.
And we all need a will. That's the thing that we reiterate.
Well, there truly is a government will that falls into place, and that will not do anything that you want to happen with what you've worked so hard for.
We'll go much deeper into conversation about that in a couple of moments and explain why it's so important. So the offers themselves that Simpler Law have offered us this evening, if you want to get your will written, what a great time to start. It should be £249, and that's a great price. The 40% discount is what it should have been at £149, but they've offered us a further discount, another £30 off, so it comes down to £119. That's just £29.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Now remember, all of these offers are time limited until close of business on Friday, but what we would always say is do it right now, and we'll tell you how to get in touch in just a moment.
You forget, don't you? And it'll be Saturday or it'll be next month before you know it, and you'll think, oh, I missed out on those deals. You have got the lasting power of attorney as well option. That should be £349. That goes down 40% to £209, but then you've got an extra £20 off, so £189, so saving £160. And again, splitting those costs, it's so little, isn't it? If you're doing the will, that's less than you spend on coffee or perhaps alcohol when you go out for a night. And then if you're going for the lasting power of attorney, splitting those costs over those 4 payments, that's probably the takeaway, you know. And it's so little money to actually do so much. Whether it's your last gift to your loved ones, or actually making sure you're looked after if you're not in a great situation with the lasting power of attorney. And you might have watched and already got in contact and you've secured the will deal, and now you're thinking, oh, now I've listened to the lasting power of attorney. I wish I'd done that last deal, because that's the will and lasting power of attorney, and you save £320 there. That's better than half price. As long as you secure the deals before Friday at the close of business, you can have whichever deal you decide to go for. So if you're going for the will right now, but then by the time you speak to someone, think, oh, well, actually, I'd like to add on the lasting power of attorney, they'll allow you to do that, and you will get it at the price. Well, rather than £598, you'll get it for £278, because we've brought it down 40%. We've taken another £80 off, and you can see there you're saving £328 is your price. But split that cost over those 4 payments, £69.50. Again, making it so affordable to do the right thing.
It really is. And remember, the first 250 clients who sign up will also receive that free book, What My Family Should Know.
And that always goes.
Brilliant.
So do make sure you're one of the first to go
It's
for
basically just somewhere where you record everything in one place. So when you do pass, your family aren't trying to find bits and pieces here, there and everywhere. From things like photos, passwords for your tablet, for your phone, your email, and then things like your pensions, your bank accounts, everything in one place. So the first 250 people will get that book as part of the offer.
There was a pension we didn't know about of Dad's that luckily they did find us, but there's so many pensions out there, and it was years later after we'd lost Dad. But lots of those pensions, they never find where they're meant to go to, and they're just sat there in someone else's account, not in yours, where it could be vital money. So, and you don't know, we didn't know Dad had a pension, we don't know all of Dad's jobs in the past and the pensions that he took out over all the years. So it's really vital information. That book is so handy. I always say you should have it from birth, but that's a little bit too early.
Bit extreme.
But from working years, I think from, when you own something, as soon as you've got things and money in the bank, I think it's so important to have all that information together. And passwords for your tablets and phones and things and computers are so important now, because that could be sentimental pictures that you can't get hold of that are on that tablet but you can't open it. Or again, because we have so many emails now, it could be vital information that's on an email, but again, you can't get on there if you haven't got a password. There's no way, you just can't. So it's so important to have all those things written down.
So you've seen the offers, but it's really easy to get in touch as well. So let's just remind you of how to get in touch. If you have just joined us, we are going to go into more details of how to write a will in just a couple of moments. simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. If you want to go directly to Simpler Law's website, you can call the call centre. The team are right there, right now, right through till 3 a.m.
And if you've got a couple of questions, they can answer those couple of questions. You don't need any information though. All you need to know is you want to secure that price for the will, for the lasting power of attorney. So do jump on the phones, and the team are fantastic. Might be a bit busy, but they will get to you as soon as they possibly can. Or you might think, well, actually, I don't fancy talking to anybody tonight. We're a bit like that, aren't we?
Yes.
You answer the phone, you answer the door, yes. When you've spoken all day, you're like that, oh, can't talk to anybody, I don't want to be nice. So just get your phone. Your phone's right there, but we never leave our phone far away, do we? Text the word will, and that is WILL to 66777. That's it. That's it. That's all you need to do. Text will to 66777. You've done it. That hardest step to actually get the ball rolling, that hardest step that we put off forever, it's done. You've secured those deals, and you know that the team will get back to you later on today, and then they'll sort out a time that's right for you to really sit down and chat about it. So even if you're thinking, well, I'm away for 3 weeks.
It's a time that's convenient for you.
Doesn't
That's
matter.
what it's all about.
You've secured the price right now, and they will sort a date that's right for you, whether you're going on holiday, you've got things coming up, where you can sit down and get that will sorted.
It is that simple. If you want to go through our website, though, you can do that as well at shopontv.co.uk. Just scroll down to our partnership on-screen partners that you can see there, and click on the Simpler Law logo. It shows you the offers that are available, and then you just fill in your details there.
And it does give you all the details of how to text it. Everything's on that page.
Yeah,
so
all
if
the
you do
contacts,
forget, it's all there. And it's really easy. This is like a quiz I could fill in. It's just your name, your phone number, the email. No tricky questions there at all. And again, as simple as that, you've done it. You secured those prices. And if it's a will, you've actually made sure you've sorted out the last gift that you'll give to your loved ones. And with a will, you can do so much. Please do not think that you haven't got anything.
I think most people think it's just about money. It's just about where your money's going to go.
Or you need to be older, because we just don't know what's around the corner, and it's vital that you have a will in place.
These are just some of the things, aren't they? You can see there, deciding who inherits from your estate, choosing what age your children or your grandchildren inherit, recording who you want to be the guardians of your children.
It's not just financial, is it?
No.
Could be your
so
pets. You know, what happens to your pets when you're not here. You can put it all down into a will. Perhaps you've got a gift that you want to go to a certain person.
Yeah,
Sadly,
it could be a sentimental gift, couldn't it? Yeah.
All the things you want to happen, and though you might have told every member of your family, you might have even written it in a notebook.
On a bit of paper.
That's what I want to happen. Unless it's written in a legally binding will, sadly, it's not going to happen. But the sadder thing is that there is a will out there that will fall in place if you haven't got a will written, and that is the government will. And hand on heart, I don't know anybody that would be right for, because it's 100 years old for a start, and so many people that we know instantly, no. Yeah. Us, we're not married, so we're off that straight away. Nothing would be for, if I died, wouldn't be Sean's if Sean went. And we've been together 34 years, but the government will doesn't care about that. We know lots of friends that have been married before, have been in relationships before, so they've got mixed, sort of family, and they're not stepsisters and brothers. They're a family, but actually it goes down the bloodline. So if one partner dies first, which obviously one will, it will only go down the surviving partner's bloodline. So that's the family
without a will,
without
your wishes written down, and that's why it's so important to write.
We've got dear friends that they're like, well, our will's too complicated. But we're like, you've got to get a will in place, because that would have been a complete mess.
And guess who did it for them? Charlotte.
We said, we'll tell you someone who can sort that out. Yeah. And though they are the worst, they've actually got it sorted.
Yeah. They have got it sorted.
And,
it was a weight lifted.
It was. Yeah, exactly. And then we're like, no, it wasn't as complicated as we thought. Because it's too complicated, is it?
It never is. You've got all the answers. We just need to ask the right questions. And as I've said already, we will go at a pace that's right for you. We have clients that come, they've got all the answers, they can do it all in one consultation, and that's great. We also have other clients that need more time, and that's also fine.
Yeah, that's fine as well. You'd go at the client's pace,
Yeah,
don't you?
we won't produce anything until you're happy with it.
And initially when people get in touch today, Charlotte, they don't need any information, don't need lots of documents and things.
No, you just need to know that you want to take the first step and you want to write a will or a power of attorney. That's the hardest bit. Once you've taken that first step, we'll hold your hand through the rest of it. And I promise you, you won't regret it. You just need to take that first step today.
We've got a great review actually, because I think for me and Mum, that we're terrified of anything and law and like, oh God, it's going to be, I'm going to say the wrong thing. It's going to be really complicated words and things I'm not going to understand. And we were the most nervous when we sat down for the phone call with Simpler Law, but they made it so easy, and instantly we were just at ease.
You don't need to be nervous.
Wasn't a worry at all.
It really is, as Charlotte said, that hand-holding service. So we've got a review from Jean. This is what Jean had to say. I was rather nervous to begin with, but from the very beginning, every person I spoke to put my worries at rest. It was a very simple procedure. I'll be recommending them to anyone I know who hasn't got a will yet. That's great, isn't it, from Jean there. So we are going to go into more detail now about wills. And when we talk about a will, Ian, well, let's explain. What is a will and why does everybody need one?
So a will is effectively a legally binding document that for all intents and purposes is your last act on planet Earth. And more importantly, the key word is it's yours.
Right.
So if you know what you want to happen with everything that you've worked hard for, your estate, the only way to make sure that does happen is to create your own will. And the best way to do that is use an expert like Charlotte, not me. But in all seriousness, and I know we labour this point quite a bit, but it's still not widely known out there that if you don't make your own will, either consciously or subconsciously, you're accepting a government will, because there is a default position. So if you've not got your own valid will in place and you pass away, then you're said to have died intestate, and that means that there's a set of rules called the rules of intestacy, we've called the government will, that then will decide how your estate is distributed. That doesn't care about you, it doesn't care about your family, and quite frankly, it doesn't care about anybody because it can't. It's just a generic default position to ensure there isn't anarchy. So it's really simple. It's option A or option B. Option A is you pass away with your own will and the last act on planet Earth is yours, or option B is you pass away without a will and you don't really get a last act on planet Earth because everything you've worked hard for is then going to be distributed according to a set of rules that is over 100 years old and isn't applicable to anybody. He doesn't care about wedding rings or engagement rings or eternity rings. It doesn't care about pets. He doesn't care that you might have wanted to leave a charitable gift. He doesn't care if you told your son what you wanted to happen. It generally doesn't care about any of that because the law says you've either passed away with your will or you've passed away with our government will, and that's it. There's no in between. So please don't believe the pub champion when he says that you're common law husband and wife. Please don't believe anyone that tells you, I'm sure it'll be okay. Please don't believe people when they say, well, you've been together 34 years, I'm sure it'll be fine. Because sadly, your family and your loved ones only find out when it's too late. And this isn't scaremongering, this is fact. I've been doing this 25 years and it still frustrates me today that the horror stories are still there.
Yeah.
We were listening to one on the radio just the other
and they're
day.
all avoidable.
It was a celebrity, and it was just this sort of story.
The assumption,
and it was and again saying, you know, Mum wouldn't have wanted this or Dad wouldn't have wanted this, but it's too late. And I think sometimes especially when we thought we'd be fine because we've been together for such a long time, but we're not married, and it wouldn't have been fine. But even if you're married, it's not as simple as you're married, so it will all be okay. Obviously, it's all going to go to
There's a limit, there's certain monetary
wife or your
limit.
husband. It's all going to go to the kids.
There's arbitrary figures attached to the rules of intestacy. You're only guaranteed as spouses the first £322,000 of an estate, and then it all depends on whether you've got children or not, and then it throws in words like chattels, which is all, and people start going, well, I just wanted to leave everything to my wife, and and of course, and it sounds weird to say it's our frustration because it's not our house, it's not our family.
No.
But our frustration is if they'd have spoken to Charlotte or a member of Charlotte's team for 15, 20 minutes, we could have fixed that. Yeah. And that's the thing, is all these problems that still occur today is because someone didn't quite get around to it. And I understand that, you know, but if you're watching this right now this morning, you've got an amazing opportunity. You might not think it, but you've got an amazing opportunity. If you send the word will, text it to 66777, we will call you back. It'll be like your quizzes, but you'll definitely get a phone call.
Definitely, yeah, I never get called back.
But that is arguably the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
But you've done something amazing, and if you're thinking about it now, you think, well, I'll sleep on it. I promise you, when you wake up tomorrow, this conversation will be forgotten, and life will move on. And if you never come around to the opportunity again, you perhaps won't take it.
We put so many things off, and then you regret that you have put them off. And when you've actually secure that deal tonight, just by texting, if that's the way you want to do it, it's so simple. It's done, and that's the first step. And then all of a sudden, that weight off your shoulders. It was like Mum's patio. It was such a weight off our shoulders to get that patio done, but it took us 6 years just to get someone round to look at the patio
And it is that
and say they
first
can do
step.
it. And they did it so easy. We thought it was going to be an absolute disaster. It was going to be a
Couple of days,
nightmare.
done.
2 days, done, dusted, safe patio, and Mum's thrilled.
And peace of mind.
And we
for
could have
you.
done that 6 years ago. But sadly, with a will, there will be a time when it's just too late because you didn't do it.
And you are just taking that first step. I think that's what's really important.
And it's so important
I don't
for
think
everybody.
people don't want to do it.
No,
I think we just don't get round to it.
life gets in the way.
You might think it's really expensive. Well, tonight it's not.
It's July, isn't it, next week? How's that happening?
People think it's going to be complicated or morbid as well.
Yes.
We get that quite a
That's,
bit.
Yes.
that's very true.
And as Charlotte has said, actually, I think because people think, oh, you know, I'm going to be talking about death. Well, you're not really.
No.
We do take you to a dark place for 1 minute and say, look, if the worst happened yesterday, what do you want to see happen? And we'll get you to talk to us about that. And then we talk about the best way to make that work. And then we make that happen, and it's your will. But it's not complicated. We make it easy for you. It's not morbid. And surprisingly, some people do have a laugh, which they weren't expecting.
That's in a lot of
They
the
really
5-star
do.
reviews, actually. Because you do, you become friends. It's like a sit-down conversation.
Yeah.
That's what I loved. Is we really worried, and you made it so simple. You made it make sense. It was just a conversation. We didn't need any information really, because you chatted the information that you needed out of us. And it was pleasant, and and that's what it is. It's so simple.
It's just a conversation like we're having now.
Yeah.
Over the phone.
Exactly.
The comfort of your own home.
I love that as well, because I think a lot of people think they'd have to go into an office. It's going to be really formal. It's not like that. Oh,
No, not at all. Time and date that's best for you. You can stay in bed if you really want to.
you don't mind?
It doesn't matter to us. No, absolutely not. But
That's
again,
not
it's
an
your
obligation, but
it's your choice at the end of the
Yeah.
day. That's what this all boils down to, is that it's your choice. So just take that first step, make the right choice today.
we will send you some information.
Yes.
The hardest thing is getting in touch with us.
Yeah.
We'll send you some information to consider. Whether you read that or not, frankly, doesn't matter. It sometimes helps people think about things, but we're going to hold your hand through the process anyway.
And you don't rush us. That's the other thing that was great.
No, we'll explain everything.
As we finished the conversation, I thought, I didn't ask that, so we emailed. You were quite happy to answer questions afterwards, and you went at our pace, sort of thing. So we were content and happy with everything.
Exactly.
Whilst we
right.
do this every day, we understand that for most of our clients, it might be the first time and probably the only time that they'll make a will or make a lasting power of attorney. And that's great because they've done it, but we don't lose sight of that. You know, so in the nicest way, without patronising anyone, you know, we sort of talk to you as if you know nothing, because we assume that you know nothing when you probably know more than that. But it means we don't miss anything.
No, that's good.
And it means you're then making a fully informed decision as to how you want your will. And the thing that we generally don't lose sight of, as I just said, is it's your will. It's not ours. It's your document. It's not ours. It's your
what you
house.
want.
It's your family. It's your wishes. And it's really important that we get that right for you, because you know you can't. There's no do-over.
No.
Of course.
When it's too late, it's too late. So again, I always stress this point. You won't regret making this. So if you sat listening to me this morning, there might be a reason that you sat listening to me. It's an opportunity. And whilst there are definitely sexier things to spend money on, you know, that we've done this, we've done this to make it affordable. You're right, you know, it's less than £1 a day for those 4 months that you pay for a will. We all blow money on stuff that we think we want to blow money on, but this is so important. As I mentioned earlier, you know, we will protect things like boilers and cars and houses and, you know, pets, and then forget to do something for ourselves. So do something amazing for yourself, but ultimately it's a selfless act. You're doing something amazing for your family. And if you could see the contrast, if you could see you passing away with a government will versus passing away with your will and what that does for your family, the contrast is so stark that giving up half an hour to speak to someone like Charlotte is no sacrifice at all.
No,
Can you
it's
explain that again? Because there is this government will that if you haven't written a will, the government will falls into place. And you might think, well, it'll still be okay because I'm not like Sean and Hayley, they're not married, so probably it's not going to work for them. And the government will definitely doesn't work for us. But even if you are married, and because the government will is 100 years old, there's so many marriages now that you're in a second marriage, or it might be your first marriage, but you've got children from different partners. Yeah. And that gets very complicated. Though you think, well, we're all one big family, the government will doesn't see that either, even if you're married.
No, the government will is basically all based on your marital status and is all derived from your bloodline. So who are your children? What's your lineage, basically? So it doesn't care about stepchildren, even though you might. And so it's awful, but forgive the finger puppets, but it's not unusual, unfortunately, for people that are on maybe a second marriage, or as you said, it doesn't even have to be a second marriage, but they might have children from previous relationships, but they want them all to be treated equally. That's not uncommon.
They might live together as one big family and don't see each other, they're just brothers and sisters.
In their mind, and again, more than understandably, they would assume that when they pass away, everything's going to go to each other and then down to those two children in equal shares. That's not an unusual situation. But the government won't do that. So what happens is, let's say Mr. passed away first, Mr. passed away, everything goes to Mrs. Then when Mrs. passes away, it actually only follows Mrs.'s bloodline. So it's only her children that would inherit from her estate. His children are disinherited completely. We call it sideways disinheritance because the money moves sideways and out of the bloodline, or out of the bloodlines in this case. So again, that might sound a little bit convoluted and you might be thinking, oh, I'm sure that won't happen. Sadly, I promise you that's what happens all too often. Yeah. But weirdly, Charlotte can fix that in 10 minutes. Honestly, it's not a big job for us to do, but the big job is you sending that text or phone the client care team tonight, because if anything we're saying tonight is resonating and you think you need a will, there's nothing to regret about putting it in place. And dare I say, the caveat to that is, if you do speak to Charlotte or a member of the client care team and say, do you know what, I've changed my mind, this isn't for me, that's fine.
That's okay as well.
Yeah, you've got 14-day cooling off period, we'll give you your money back.
So you've got
if you change your mind, there's no risk at all.
But people don't.
No.
Once they start, they realise
how important it is.
And lots of people, and this is what's really key, you can only know what you know. And when you speak to someone who knows more than you, which is that's the case for me whenever I speak to anybody. But you know, dare I say that Charlotte's going to know more than the vast majority of the British public out there, unless you're a trained will writer.
Yeah, because that's what you do.
Because that's what Charlotte and her team do. They're going to find out things and tell you things that you might not have known yourself. We've seen situations where we've saved people £140,000 in inheritance tax just by changing one thing in a will that they'd previously had that they didn't know about.
No.
So there's lots of things to be learned, and lots of weights to be lifted off people's shoulders that they don't know exist. But again, it all comes back to, we can't telepathically get this to you.
You have to start the journey.
Phone the guys are there now.
Yeah.
They're in the office
and it's everybody
right
as well.
I was just going to say the same thing. It is for everyone, isn't it,
Yeah,
Charlotte?
absolutely. Everybody needs a will. And a lot of people might be sitting at home as well thinking, oh, you know, I want to wait until my child is of this age, or I want to wait until this
I get married.
You don't know what's around the corner. We haven't got a crystal ball. Do it now.
Yeah.
On the consultation, we can discuss with you options to be able to change your will.
In the
because
future,
it is going to change as time goes on. So these are options that we discuss with you as well. But you might even already have a will, but is it signed correctly?
Yeah.
Is it still relevant to you now? Things may have changed. So
could you save some of that inheritance tax?
Exactly,
all those things that we don't know.
We can
well,
review
legislation changes in the background. Your personal circumstances may not have changed if you made a will, but legislation certainly has. So has something in legislation changed that's now affected your will? And again, why would you know that?
Yeah.
Unless you're a geek like me, why would you know that?
So if you have already got a will, you can still help people.
Definitely,
with
definitely.
the offer. Great.
So again, just
and
get
again,
in contact.
worst case scenario, if you've got a will, we'll look at it for you.
Yeah.
Great.
And we'll check it and say, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Well, then you've got that peace of mind. So, look, there's nothing to regret in getting in touch with us.
We
There's
spoke
everything
earlier
to gain.
about a single person, because I think a lot of people at home, and I want you to tell the story about this gentleman, because I think I understand in my heart why he possibly didn't write a will. I think he probably thought, well, I'm not married yet, I haven't got any children. He was living a very good life, he'd got a very good job, so wasn't expecting not to be here, so didn't even think about it. But we don't know. But tell us what happened, because I think this is such a devastating story, and as a single person I think it'll make you realise again how important it is, even if you're on your own, to have a will. Yeah,
it's weird because there's hundreds of these stories, but this stuck with me as well when I saw it, because obviously it was coming from the surviving brother and the mom, It was a young guy, successful, as you said, he was single, he'd never married, he'd not got any children. You're quite right, we'll never know why he didn't make a will, but he didn't, and sadly he passed away totally unexpectedly at a very young age. The backstory, and why this, I actually saw this on a TV programme, the backstory was that when he was born, the poor guy who passed away, when he was born, his dad basically left. So again, we don't know the reason behind that, and that's his choice, but he left and also had nothing to do with the family. So basically, mum was left to bring up 2 boys on her own, effectively a single parent, and dad's nowhere to be seen. No birthday cards, no contact, just not part of their lives at all.
Right.
So this young man's now passed away unexpectedly. So his mum's already having to deal with that. I mean, that's an awful thing for any parent to deal with. But he's passed away without a will, so he's died intestate. So he's got the government will. The first question that's asked in the government will is, the person that's passed away, were they married? The answer was no. And it's a series of yes or no questions. It's a bit like a flowchart. So the next question, when you answer no, is, did the person have any children? Again, the answer was no. The next question was, does he have parents? The answer, of course, was yes. And the outcome was his entire estate was to be shared equally between his parents.
Oh, that's awful.
And again, I'm not being facetious, it didn't have an open bracket saying, but only if they're in his life, close bracket. It's very...
Black and white, it's very clear, isn't it?
It's just the law. And the government will is just the means to distribute the estate. So this poor woman, who's now heartbroken, then has to track down her ex-husband, who she herself has not seen for decades because he wasn't part of her son's life, and say, our son has passed away, and by the way, here's half of his estate. And, you know, there was a lot of pushback against that, going, that's not right, and there isn't a right or wrong here. It's back to, you either pass away with your will and your wishes are carried out, or you pass away and you get the government will. And I can't stress enough, the government will doesn't care about us, and I'm not critical of it. How can it?
No.
It's designed to meet millions and millions of people in the UK that haven't made a will. So it can't be personal, so it isn't. So it's just a means to an end. And it's literally saying, if you don't make your own will, this is what you're going to get. And if you think that's going to be okay, sadly it won't be, because it doesn't dictate who's going to deal with your estate, and you probably would want your wife, your children, your best friend to deal with it.
Of course, yeah.
It certainly doesn't care about your children. It doesn't care about guardianship. It doesn't care about what age your children inherit. And worse still, it doesn't care about gifts. Quite often, it's not unusual for moms to want to leave jewellery to daughters and things like that. And in some cases, to avoid family fallout, they even stipulate, well, I want my wedding ring to go to this person, I want my engagement ring to go to this person. People want to make charitable donations. People want to do things that are important to them and personal to them. The government will's not personal, it doesn't care. So again, if you're listening to me waffle on this morning, and I appreciate you three have to, they can turn off. But in all seriousness, if you're listening to me at this point, the one thing I will say is you then can't say that you didn't know that the government will existed.
Yeah, you're aware of it now. Yeah.
So please don't accept the government will.
And that's why you do these programmes, because I think so
Absolutely,
many of us, we had no idea that there was a will in place. So we, you just
know what you know, don't you?
Presume everybody knew that. Obviously, we've been together so long, it's going to go to each of us. And it would never have happened if we hadn't.
We only thought, like I often say, about just money. You don't think about all the other things that you can do with a will. Because, Charlotte, there's so many things that you can put into your will, all of your wishes, aren't there?
Yeah, so much. It's not just about distribution of where you want things to go. You can also stipulate where you don't want things to go. So it could be that you're estranged from a family member, a child, a parent. It's not uncommon now. It can be a really difficult conversation to have, but if you want to guarantee it does go to a certain someone, we can actually exclude the person you're estranged from your will, which is really important.
On here we can see about ages for inheritance. Cause
yes, this is a really big one.
What would naturally be the age for inheritance?
So legally it's 18.
Okay.
We've all been 18.
Yeah.
We pretty much all of our clients actually raise that bar.
Responsible.
Oh, I can imagine.
No one believes that.
No, not one of us.
No, exactly. And when you think about an 18-year-old inheriting, what are they going to spend that money on? Exactly.
It could be gone by the time they're 20.
Especially if it's a big amount.
A lot of clients will raise that to 21, usually between 21 and 23. You can actually split it as well.
Oh, so they could have some at 18, some at 20, some
Yeah, exactly. Some clients even raise it to 30. Again,
Right.
it's all about the control and it being your choice.
Well, you know your child as well, don't you? So you know. how it should,
Yeah,
how it would work better.
I've actually had clients before where they'll say, well, actually, my daughter can inherit 18, but my son's going to be 30. So, you know, again, it's your document. It's personal to you. So these are all things that we can put in there. And with children, obviously, you've got the guardianship clause, which we've mentioned as well, which is really, really important, which we can come on to.
And we often talk about pets as well.
Pets are more important than children.
A lot of the calls.
You have that, don't you?
Yeah, they do. We've sorted the children out.
Dealt with the kids now.
Now we need to focus on our cat or our dog. Yes, a gift of pet, which is really important. You can also give a cash allowance with that pet as well. So if someone's going to look after the pet for you can actually gift an amount of money for them to do that as well. And you mentioned previously, but specific gifts of items. So jewellery, it could even be watches from dads, or golf clubs, could be hobbies that you've passed down to your
Could
children.
be a family heirloom that's meant to go down the family line, sort of thing, the surname.
Yeah, definitely. It could even be a friend that you want to give a little bit of money
monetary
to.
value, it's sentimental value sometimes. So it's important that, you know, these are important things. These are the things that people get really upset about.
Definitely.
And again, it all comes full circle to the only way to make sure this happens is by you take control. It's the
your
personal
document.
element, it's your document.
Yeah, and it's
There was a gentleman, wasn't there, and his friend had looked after him for years, and he'd always promised him his house, and everybody knew this, and he had written it down, hadn't he? But because it wasn't a legal will.
Put it on a post-it note, like house to, it was literally, it was something like house to Bob, you know, and everyone knew this is what's going to, and eventually when this gentleman died, everyone who knew them expected
The house is going to Bob.
and so, you know, conversation comes up a few weeks later or whatever, and all of a sudden we find out there was no will. And so Bob's not in his bloodline, it doesn't matter, even though the guy
He'd been the one
treated
that
him as
looked
family
after him,
closest, all that. Again, it's irrelevant. The law doesn't care about that. I think it's ended up going to a second cousin in Canada or something like that, where there was next to no relationship. But that's the nature of these things. And whilst these stories might sound a little bit far-fetched and melodramatic, they're not. They're happening every day.
Yeah.
And so the reason we do these shows, you're quite right, is to encourage as many people as we can to say, take control, do something amazing, not just for yourself, but ultimately for your family and for your loved ones. You've worked hard for everything that you've got. You've probably not been given it. So you probably want to make sure that everything you worked hard for is going to go to where you want it. And you're quite right, all this personal stuff that we don't normally think about, but gifts and you know, even charitable donations, even things like you might have specific funeral wishes. You know, and
So you can
might
write that down.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
all
think a
about
lot of
you.
us have trouble talking about that, don't we? So to have that in a
we're so
will.
open in the UK.
Oh,
Yeah. We're so at
to have
ease,
that in
aren't
a
we?
will would be
never
such
gonna happen.
peace of mind, wouldn't it? That you're doing what they wanted,
Written it down.
you know, to happen.
I had
Whether they
Yeah.
wanted
I
to
had
be
an
buried or
absolutely-
cremated.
I had an absolutely brilliant client. I thought she was joking, and she said, I want to be cremated. She said, and when the curtains closed, she said, I want Firestar to start Played by the Prodigy. And I'm thinking, I'm not sure the crematorium will do that, but that's your wish. We'll document it, make sure your family know. And that's what I mean about sometimes you can find a little bit of lightness.
Yeah.
It's not morbid. It's just
not, it
you're
really
just
isn't.
planning for something. That's all you're doing.
We had a friend, and that's what he.
That's exactly what he did.
Oh, really?
That's exactly what he
No.
wanted. Yeah, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he
honestly,
did.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, it's personal preference, and sometimes if you don't document that or you don't share that, again, that can be one of those awful things where the family are looking at each other and they might fall out over going,
Yeah.
oh, Dad wouldn't want this,
Yeah.
Mum wouldn't
Yeah.
want that. So it really is a selfless thing. So yes, you will definitely get something out of it. Yes, you'll definitely find it a cathartic process. Yes, you'll definitely say thank you, I promise you at the end of it, if
Yeah,
Charlotte's
you
done a
will.
good job. But you will, and you'll feel like a weight's being lifted. But ultimately, it's 100% selfless, because when you're no longer here, you've not left your family questioning what you will want to happen or being upset because what you wanted to happen now isn't
And
happening.
having to deal with
Yeah,
it.
they're upset enough, aren't they? You're going through
Yeah.
this devastating
We
time.
underestimate grief. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
definitely.
all of a sudden, everything that you know was meant to happen isn't happening, and that's when families fall apart.
I want to be really clear that a will does not diminish a bereavement.
No.
No.
But here's what we know for a fact, because we've been doing it that long, that those that pass away with a will don't make the situation worse.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference. You are not making it worse because your family aren't really having to think about it, because guess what? You already did
You've
it.
planned it, yeah.
Where it gets worse is where the family then find out, what do you mean his son's inheriting? He's not had a relationship with him for 20 years. We have some clients who put off contacting us because they might be embarrassed or ashamed because they want to exclude someone. You would not believe how
How often
we're
that
not the
happens.
Waltons.
No.
You know, and family, blood
Yeah.
isn't always thicker than
Yeah.
water. There's a reason those fridge magnets exist that say that, you know, friends of the family that you make for
Yeah.
yourself. But it's all back to, what do you want to happen?
Your wishes. And
It's your document.
Yeah, that's what it all comes back to, isn't it?
Please don't put your head in the sand and just think, well, John down the pub told me everything was going to be okay, and he is the Trivial Pursuit champion, so he knows everything. That isn't good enough, and I promise you, that won't work. The only way that what you want to happen is going to happen when you've passed away is to make a will with someone like Charlotte.
Now, we've got another great review that's really relevant to what you just said there. This one's from Michael, and Michael says, be aware, no one is going to do your will with your thoughts for you. So after seeing the team on Shop on TV, I was nudged into action. So may I thank Gemma for her patience in relating my thoughts into my will. That's great, isn't it?
Really
it
great.
It really is. So if you do want to get in touch, the offers that we've got for you, remember, Simpler Law are experts in the field when it comes to estate planning. We've got wills and we've got lasting powers of attorney. We're going to talk about those once again.
And it's so important to do these things in a legally binding way as well. And we will go into that more. You've got to have an official will written that's been signed correctly.
It's a legally binding document, remember.
Otherwise, sadly, it will go over to that government will, and that government will, because there is a will in place, but if you do pass and you haven't written your own will, or you've perhaps just written it on a piece of paper, or you've done something that hasn't been signed, if you haven't got a legally binding will, it will then go to the government will, and hand on heart, that will is not right for anybody.
You want it to be your wishes, and that's what a will is all about. Fantastic offers that Simpler Law bring us. If you want to take advantage, let's remind you of what we've got here for you. So the family estate will, if you want to go for that, it has a suggested retail price of £249. It's got 40% off, so it brings it down to 149, and then a further discount of £30. So today's price, just 119. Imagine being able to write your will, that peace of mind, for just 119.
And then when you split that cost over those 4 payments, £29.75, 4 payments, and that is it. That's your will, your last gift to your loved ones, and it costs probably less than you spend on coffee a month. It's so affordable, and we did think a will would be so expensive to do. Affordable and so uncomplicated. Honestly, Simpler Law make it so easy. And then we've got our lasting power of attorney. We're going to go back into detail about this, because you may have heard lasting power of attorney but not completely understand what it's all about. Sadly, you usually only know about it when something's happened to a friend's loved one and you think, oh gosh, I must get that sorted, which is why I approached Simpler Law for my mum way before we worked with them here on Shop on TV. Now that should be £349. You've got 40% off, so that goes down to £209, but then you have got another £20 off. So you actually end up saving £160 and it goes down to £189. And again, when you split that cost, 4 payments of £47.25, that is probably what you spend on a takeaway, each month or each week, possibly, and you've got that lasting power of attorney sorted in an instant as well, and so easily. But then you might have already been sat with us, you might have already secured the deal for the will, and now you're thinking, well, actually, when I listen to the lasting power of attorney, I wish I'd done the last one, because that is the will and lasting power of attorney. As long as you secure the deals, even if you change your mind and want to add on, you will be able to do that. You're securing all these prices tonight. And that, doing the will and lasting power of attorney, it works out better than half price.
Well, at £598 on the suggested price, with the 40% discount, it was brilliant at £358. But the Simpler Law are going to offer you a further £80 discount. So it comes down today to £278. And with those 4 interest-free payments that Simpler Law are going to offer you, it's just £69.50 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. On top of the offers being so good, the first 250 clients will also receive the book, What My Family Should Know. And in that book, it's where you record everything from pensions, from your assets, things like your bank accounts. It can be things like passwords
it's
for
things
tablets
that could be lost,
and phones.
isn't it? Old pensions that nobody knew about, lost. It could be wishes for your pets. It's your codes as well for phones and tablets, so you can get information perhaps that you need. I think it's absolutely vital to have all that information in one place, but we don't do it, do we? But this book makes you do that. Now, the first 250 people will get this, and they always go, so then lots of people want to buy it. It's worth £25, so it can be bought, but what you want to do is get it by just securing these deals tonight. If you're just securing the deals, you're in with getting that book. And it's so easy to do exactly that. So whether you're sat at home right now thinking, well, I don't really want to talk to anybody, you can jump onto the website, you can text. Or whether you think, well, actually, I'd rather just ask a couple of questions and chat to somebody. There's even people on the phone lines right now waiting for you to get in contact, and this is that first step.
Yeah, and you don't need any documentation, you don't need to know anything, it's
No.
just about securing those offers. So let's show you how easy it is to get in touch. simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. That'll take you directly through to our exclusive offers, but those offers are only available once again until close of business on Friday.
Yeah, so do it now, because tomorrow will get in the way. It'll be Saturday before you know it, and then you've missed out on all the offers and definitely the book. So just make sure you secure those prices right now, and then it's done. It's always that first step that takes so long. The phone number, and honestly, they are there and they've been busy tonight, 0333 600 2600. If you've got a couple of questions, they will be able to answer them just quickly. But remember, the idea is just securing those deals tonight. You don't need to know anything. You don't even need to ask anything. Just say, I'd like to secure the prices, and then they will get back to you a little bit later on today to sort out a time that's convenient. So even if you're going on holiday for 3 weeks, perhaps in 2 days' time, they'll sort out having that meeting with you when it is the right time and convenient with you. What you're doing is freezing these prices and securing these deals.
Now, the easiest way and the most popular when we do these late night shows is the texting service that Simpler Law offer. You can just text the word WILL, W-I-L-L, to 66777. That'll secure the offer, whatever offer you want to go for, and then the team will get back to you after 11 a.m. today. It won't be too early. No one's going to wake you up first thing in the morning or later on the next day, depending on how busy they are. But with these offers, we're always so busy. So it's about securing that offer, and that's all you've got to do. If you do want to go through our website, you can also do that as well. shopontv.co.uk, scroll down our homepage and you'll see our on-screen partners. Just click on the Simpler Law logo, takes you through to the offers, and you've
got all the deals, everything there.
All
you've got
the ways
the
to
phone
get in
number,
touch.
you've got the text, which is always super busy, and you don't have to speak to anybody. But actually, if you scroll down, you still don't have to speak to anybody. You've got a very simple form. I know all the answers to all those questions. All you need to do is fill that form in and submit that, and then you have secured those prices. You've done it now. Do it now. You'll forget before Friday. A close of business. You know, it's July next week. Where did June go? All of a sudden, it'll be Christmas before we know it. And if we don't get things done, we put them off forever. Then it will be spring again, and you still haven't got that will written. And one day, sadly, it will just be too late. And your wish, you could be, and I do think, I'd like to think that you're looking down on us, looking after us still. And you could be looking down on your family having a complete fallout, because though they know what you wanted to happen, it's not going to happen if you didn't write that will, because sadly the government will, I would say the complete opposite. It's not what you want to happen. I think it's a will the government will has been written for 100 years, and it doesn't relate to anybody, especially us, been together 34 years, wouldn't care for a minute, because we're not married. But it's not even as simple as just being married. It gets even more complicated if you've got children from different partners. Honestly, the government will is not a will you want. You want to write your own will, and it's so affordable to do that tonight. But we have, of course,
your wishes.
It is. It's your last gift to your loved ones,
and to yourself. That's the great
thing. And whether
that's
to give to the people that you love and not give to certain people, a will you can write everything down that you want, even if it's where your pets, what's going to happen to your pets, what's going to happen to the kids.
But it's not just about wills. Simpler Law also offers lasting power of attorney. So many different services are available because they specialise in estate planning. But we are going to talk about lasting power of attorney now. And Charlotte, it was the same for me when I first heard of it. I'd heard the term bandied around, lasting power of attorney, but I wasn't quite sure what it meant. So can you explain to anyone at home who doesn't know what it means?
Yes, so lasting powers of attorney are documents where if you lose your capacity, so it could be through ill health, like dementia, for example, because that's quite prevalent at the moment. It could be a freak accident as well. Whatever it may be, if you can't make your own decisions, lasting powers of attorney are documents where you nominate who can do that for you. So it could be family, it could be friends, it could be a mix of the two. But they're documents that you need to put in place now whilst you've got capacity, because if it's too late, you can't actually then put them in place. So you put them in place now, hoping you never need them, but they're there should life throw you that curveball.
A bit like an
and the worst
insurance
happened.
in a way.
Yeah, in a
fashion.
way, you like to say that it's similar to an insurance policy, but not exactly. You like to hope
What
you
if?
never need them.
A
Yeah,
what
a what
if,
if.
that's how
What
it
if?
is.
Yeah,
a
definitely.
What if document.
Because
Yeah,
you would
they're
think
much better to have.
Yeah,
And
I-
risk never needing.
I think with wills, you know, you think, you know, I know what's going to happen. Everybody knows. I've told everybody what's going to happen. But I think it's the same with lasting power of
It's
attorney.
presumptions,
Yeah,
isn't it?
if it's your partner that's poorly or your husband that's poorly, or if it's, you know, my mum that's poorly and can't look after herself, you would presume, well, everybody knows that I love them. Why can't I sort out their bills instantly? Why
Yeah.
can't I deal with all those things straight away? Because I am the wife, I am the daughter.
Yeah, no, unfortunately not. If you think about trying to contact any person's institution, so your mum's, for example, the first thing they're going to say is, are you the account holder?
Yeah,
They're
so if
gonna
you rang
go
the
through
bank,
data protection.
that's
Even
the
if
first
you
thing they
ring
say.
Yeah.
ring the electric or the
Yeah.
gas,
Yeah.
they're like,
Car
it's your-
insurance,
it's your
anything
mum
you
there.
try and get
I
hold
need to
of.
speak to your mum. You can't do anything, can you?
No, you can't
when
do
you
anything
think
for them.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And if that person's lost capacity, they're even more vulnerable at that point.
Yeah.
Of course.
So there's nothing that you can do in that scenario if you haven't got power of attorney. If someone's got that power of attorney document, they essentially become you. They step into your shoes. So you're actually called the donor on a power of attorney because you're donating your power, you're donating your voice to the people that you trust to handle everything for you if you can't. They're really, really powerful documents.
And we're talking about finance to begin with, because there are two different types of lasting power of attorney. But with finance, just to reiterate, we're going to put a few things up on screen. These are all the things that, with property and affairs, lasting power of attorney, that you'll take control of, won't you?
Yeah, so property and financial. So again, you nominate who you trust, could be family or friends. They can manage properties that you have. So if the property needs to be sold for any reason, for example, maybe to pay for your care fees, they
Gosh,
can do
yes.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
If they need to access your bank accounts to pay bills, they can also manage any money that you've got in there. It could be that you've got pensions coming in that they want to claim for. It could be benefits. Anything to do with your finances, they can manage everything, because these don't just stop because you've lost your capacity.
Of course not, yeah.
So someone needs to manage those. So really, really important document.
So that's the first
That's the
one.
first one.
That's what we came to you about for mum.
Yes,
and
yeah.
honestly, it's so easy to sort out. We were really worried we wouldn't have the right answers. We wouldn't know what to say. We wouldn't know what's. Simply Law make it so simple. It's just like this conversation. They virtually talk the answers out of you. But as we were chatting, you explained there was another lasting power of attorney. And as soon as you told me about this one, I was like, well, the health and welfare for me is just as important or more important.
Yeah,
personally,
it really
for
is.
mum.
'Cause it's really personal.
Yeah.
It's the health and welfare document. You can have the same person or different people on the health to the finance, but the health document means that those people can decide where you're living. So if you need to go into a care home, they can decide, excuse me, which care home that is. If they want to care for you at home, they can do that. If you've made your wishes clear to them, they can actually make that choice for you and care for you themselves.
Yeah.
Even down to what you're wearing and what you're eating.
So it's really personal, isn't it?
Yeah,
you can write
it's
all
things
this
we
in
take
there.
for granted every day, but they make you you. They're
Yeah.
Oh,
individual
that's a
to you.
great
and
description.
Yeah.
yeah, and
If
your
you've got a
ones
loved
are
one
gonna-
and you know what they used to wear and how they used to do the hair, do the lipstick.
yeah, you might have
to-
a red lipstick you like
yeah,
to
that's
wear.
it. To see them completely different in a different outfit.
yeah.
Or
Exactly right. If you go into a care home, unfortunately, they're not going to know anything about you beforehand. You haven't got your voice anymore because you've lost the capacity to do that. So by giving someone that power, they can still make sure that you can have all of those things that do make you individual. We actually have a lot of clients that actually split people as well over the health and finance. So if they've got, for example, a son and daughter, they might go, oh, my son's really switched on, he's really financial, let's put him on the financial power of attorney. But my daughter's a little bit more caring. She'll care for me at home. My son will put me in a care home, so we'll have the daughter on the health power of attorney.
Right.
But, you know, they can
It's
have the same on
completely up
both.
to you.
But
Yeah.
again, it's all about
I feel
the
that
control.
Charlotte's stereotyping.
I am actually there. It switches. But again, it's just about you making the choice that's right for you and you having that document in place, because if you haven't got that in place, you're relying on the right person to step forward, essentially, which might not be the person you chose initially.
So if it's not in place, what's the process then? If you don't have lasting power of attorney, Ian?
You are you're leaving it to chance that
Okay.
the person that you would have chosen for yourself or the people that you would have chosen will then approach something called the Court of Protection.
so someone has to come forward
Yeah.
and
So-
try and.
No one's compelled to do that, so it can get messy very, very quickly. But more frustratingly is quite often it is a wife, it is a husband, it is a son, it is a daughter, but they then have to prove to the court of protection why they want to be able to look after
That
mum
they're
or look after
trustworthy. Yeah.
and that's the whole point of the court of protection. Understandably, there to protect the vulnerable person. So the real stark difference is if you make a lasting power of attorney when you can today, you've done beyond doubt. You've made it clear that I want my son, I want my daughter, I want my husband, I want my wife to step into my shoes. And that document gets registered with the Office of Public Guardian, and your chosen attorneys can then just look after you because you did that when you could. The court of protection route is you've got to hope that those people that you would have chosen for yourself are the ones that apply for the court of protection for what's called a deputyship order. That runs into the thousands of pounds.
Yeah, you can't just apply for it. You have to pay to apply for it.
You've got to get through all the paperwork for a start, and then you've got to, as you can see on the screen there, the fees are horrific if you do it yourself. Now, it's not unusual for us.
So these costs are if you do all the documentation yourself?
Yeah, and when you use other professionals to help with that, it runs into even more thousands because, of course, you're into legal expenses, and it runs into thousands of pounds. And again, all of this is avoidable. If you had that crystal ball and you knew life was going to throw you a curveball, you wouldn't hesitate to put this in place. You know, it's almost like it's not an insurance policy, but it can be viewed of like an insurance policy because it's a what-if document. What if life throws you that curveball? Is it important that that document's in place? Well, there's two things to say on that. The obvious one is, yes, it's really important it's in place, but it must be signed, dated and witnessed correctly. And we help you do all of that as well. So we help you put everything that needs to be in this document. We help you put your preferences in, your instructions, everything that you want to happen. We talked about how your attorneys can work, but more importantly, we make sure that the document is valid and, for want of a better description, ready to go. So that if it is needed, it can either be registered straight away with a body called the Office of Public Guardian, or you can choose to keep it yourself or ask us to look after it for you, knowing that then you can request it or your attorneys can request it if it's needed. That's all personal preference. But the key is it's your document and it needs to be good to go. Because without that, if life did throw you that curveball, you did lose capacity through illness or an accident, that's when you are then, unfortunately, at the mercy of the court protection. And it's not just all those costs, it's the time.
Yeah. So the process isn't quick, is it?
You say it can take it up to a year.
Typically, it's taken a year and longer. The courts have.
And that's the time when your loved one's poorly. You want to be there for your loved one. And you're trying to sort the court out, and
your attention's in all the wrong place.
Of course, yeah.
And you could have lost them before it's even sorted.
Sadly, that's not uncommon.
Yeah,
that's not uncommon. So again, it's a selfless thing. I mean, you're genuinely doing this for yourself because you are the donor. As Charlotte quite rightly said, you donate your power to someone. So of course, you're getting something out of this because you know, if I named you two as my attorneys, I know that if life throws me that curveball, you can step into my shoes, and that's what I would want. So it's almost job done. So of course you're getting something out of it. But more importantly, the people that you're appointing are typically your loved ones, your children, your closest friends, or your husband, your wife. You remove that burden. And in the same way that I often say, and I've said it on the show tonight, a will doesn't diminish a bereavement. A lasting power of attorney doesn't diminish the fact that someone's going through something horrible. But by having a lasting power of attorney, you don't make that situation worse.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you make it better,
No,
but what you do is you don't add to that burden, because then, I keep using this metaphor about stepping into shoes, but that's literally what your attorneys do. They can then step into your shoes and go, right, okay, what did mum want?
Yeah.
And with things like health and welfare, it can go as deep as you can tell your attorneys whether you want them to make decisions about life-sustaining treatment, because people have very personal ideas on things like that.
Yeah.
So again, being able to pass your voice to someone, your children or your husband, your wife can be saying, no, she wouldn't want that, or he wouldn't want that, and you're speaking for them.
Yeah.
And
so,
yes.
No pun, the word power is meant because it's a very powerful document. You donate your power to these attorneys.
And a story comes to mind, and I think she was a nurse.
Oh, yes.
It was Christmas time.
Sorry, I don't know why I laughed. There's hundreds of these.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was in the paper, that's why it comes to mind. And she took her mum out of her home, and she was taking her home
out
for Christmas.
Out of a care home, wasn't it?
And the police went after her because she wasn't entitled to do that.
And it's all understandable. Again, there was public outcry because we don't,
that's not
collectively,
right.
we don't understand it going. But it's a daughter, she's a nurse, so she knows what she's doing. It's her own mom, she's not done anything wrong. But again, if you apply a little bit of logic and unfortunately the law, what authority do you have over your parents?
Yeah.
No.
You're
So
coming with me. Yeah.
her mum was in the care system and in a care home, and she didn't seek any permission, and nor did she have permission because she wasn't an attorney. So she just took mum out to bring her home for Christmas, which was a lovely thing to do, and thought, you know, I can look after her for a day and we'll take her back. And of course the care home went into panic mode, as you would.
Yeah.
Patients missing, and phoned the police, and for all intents and purposes, again, sounds melodramatic, but she's been kidnapped.
It's like kidnapping, yeah.
Yeah.
So of course the police caught up with her, I think, in a certain supermarket car park, and you're right, but that's not an isolated incident.
No.
But again, if she'd have got a lasting power of attorney and had donated her voice, then that's a conversation that
She
you
could
could
have
have
had,
had.
yeah.
But you've got no authority, and that's what people find frustrating, and worse still, don't quite understand. But if you're able to take a breath and step back, you can understand it. Because today, when everyone's well, we don't have any authority over them. So when they're not well, we have even less authority over them because now they're protected.
Yeah.
So that's the importance of a lasting power of attorney. Better to have it and hope you never need it than not have it. It's the epitome of planning for the worst but hoping for the best.
It is, and again, it's so affordable as well tonight. So if you have been looking into lasting power of attorney, do check out our prices, because you have got incredible deals. They're only up until, though, the close of business on Friday, so it is a limited time you can get these prices. All you need to do, though, is secure them right now. You don't need any answers, you don't need any paperwork.
That's
you
the great
just
thing.
need to get in contact.
Yeah, you're just taking that first step. You're starting the process. It might be that you've just never got round to it when it comes to wills and lasting power of attorney. Now's that first
Something
step.
you keep putting off, isn't it? And we never know what's around the corner, and one day it will be too late. So do it now whilst it's the right time. And then it's a weight off your shoulders. When we did Mums, honestly, it was such a panic for us. We thought, oh, it's going to be really complicated. I won't know all the long words. I'm going to look a fool. I'm going to ask the wrong questions. And at not one point did I think I couldn't ask a question. I felt so at ease with the team. It's just like a simple conversation, and they talk the information out of you.
Yeah.
And they make sure everything's done right, because we did sign ours originally incorrectly without even realising, simply because the lady that's lived next door to Mum for years and years on end, she actually had, well, the name we'd always called her wasn't actually her birth name.
Wasn't it a
She
middle
took her
name?
middle
Quite
name.
common for that,
So
yeah.
she
That's
sort
quite
of
common.
signed it and wrote it all back to front upside down. And
So
you,
she signed it one way and wrote it.
you noticed that, and you were like, hang
Yeah.
on a minute, why don't these names actually match up? It's like, and then we went to him like, why does this not, what's this all
And
about?
this is why it's important when we say it's that hand-holding service all the way through. It's not just the consultation that we do for you. We make sure that you've got your documents, make sure you're happy with them, and we also make sure that you sign them correctly. So we do send out instructions on how to sign them. There is also a video on our website, but we actually also offer a free validation service.
So
we'll
once it's
actually make
signed-
sure they're signed
We
correctly
did-
for
we did
you.
that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, exactly,
That's when
right
you
up
saw
until
it,
the end. So we make sure that you've got a document that is valid.
And if it
is
was
legal.
signed incorrectly like that, there could be a chance that it wouldn't be valid.
Yeah, definitely. If it's not been signed
it doesn't
correctly.
match.
So again, you
Yeah,
need
it's not
to
been
do it with a
dated.
professional.
Yeah, unfortunately, it has to be a wet signature. It has to be signed and dated
The
legally and
Office of the
correctly.
Public Guardian are renowned for the bureaucracy and are renowned for, if
Nope.
it doesn't fit their format and it's not 100% accurate, they can reject it and will reject
And
it.
that's another reason it's so important to do it with you guys.
This is when, again, it can be really upsetting because someone
Yeah.
might have taken the time to put
To do
together a
it.
lasting power of attorney,
Know exactly what they
but
want.
not completed it correctly, or made a mistake. And if that's not spotted, and then the attorneys go, oh, Dad's lost capacity, right, let's get it registered. The Office of Public Guardian reject it. It's now lost capacity, so we can't fix it.
Yeah.
So we make sure that when we get these documents to you, that, as Charlotte's just said, first and foremost, you understand them, you're happy with them, but then we will help you make sure that they're all signed, dated and witnessed correctly, which sounds quite easy, but again, it is easy when you know what
Yeah.
you're doing
Yeah.
and you see
No,
this
yes,
document
sir.
every day, but some people can understandably almost be overwhelmed
Yeah,
because it comes through as a 20-page document, but we'll talk you through that. And then most people are like, oh, I'll get around to it. That's a dangerous thing, going to stick it in
Yes.
a drawer. So our commitment to you is, right, we're on the end of the phone, or here's a video, we will help you get this document right, because the last thing you want to do is stick it in a drawer and not sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all too
That
often
intention there.
all too often we've had people come to us that have tried to do it themselves and things like that, and they have made mistakes. They've written stuff in there that hasn't worked quite right, or even down to things like they've signed it in the wrong order, because it has to be signed and dated
Yes,
in a
that's
particular
really
order.
important, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's really easy to mess up. unintentionally.
It really is, yeah.
But the consequences of that can be catastrophic, because then you've rendered the document invalid. So our job and our responsibility, and why we're insured for it, is to make sure that you get it right. More importantly, we help you get it right.
And that's what you did for us. You made sure we got it
but
right.
we come full circle to, we can only help you if you text us.
Yeah,
or
exactly
if you
right.
take the
That
first
first
step.
step.
Or Charlotte's team are there now. They're there right now. So 403 600 2600. That's all you need to do. You don't need anything else other than to secure the deal tonight.
You won't
And I
regret
promise
it.
you won't. That's the thing, isn't it?
No, it's true.
It's so
I know,
true,
but
though.
you-
Yeah.
You always
I'm a
say
broken
for so
record.
many people, it's just like a weight off their shoulder. It was for us.
Honestly, you get-
We were so het up, and then it was just this weight off our shoulder that we didn't
All
even
done.
really know
Get
was
to the end of the
there until.
consultation. Yeah, you might not even realise that you had it. But every single client, honestly, you get to the end of the consultation, it's just, you can hear that relief. Or sometimes
done.
they're physically saying, oh gosh, that feels so good to actually
Yeah.
have done that now. It really is, it's so rewarding for you,
Yeah.
honestly.
It's like anything in life, really. I think we're so good at putting things off. No, I don't think we do it intentionally. I think life is so busy.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, we've got some stair carpets that I am ashamed of, and I open the door and I'm like this, don't let me see the carpets, just talk through to and through the gap. All we need to do is get in contact with the carpet guy and say, would you come and change it?
Job done.
Have we? No. They're embarrassing. And honestly, if we actually got in contact, we'd get the job done, and we'd bound up those stairs. Those stairs would be amazing, and it would be, wow, why didn't we do it ages ago? But these are really serious things and important things, like
So
wills
important.
and lasting powers of attorney.
Really, really bad that I want to see your stairs.
I'll send you a picture there.
No, you won't.
They're terrible.
No.
Absolutely. And we just because, not because we don't want, we're desperate for a new
Just
stair
because we haven't got
carpet.
round to it.
Yeah.
But
Keep
now
putting
you
off.
can get round to
Yeah,
something
this is
that's
the
so
hardest
important.
bit. And if we actually did it, it'd get done. So you are doing it, and it will get done. But this is so much more important than our stair carpet,
is.
because this is about life.
Procrastination is my favourite habit.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Procrastination is my
guilty.
favourite habit. But
We will get round to it. We will.
Yeah.
And in the nicest possible way, you want a new stair carpet. But
So
if you don't get a stair carpet, it's just going to bug you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is the difference that setting aside half an hour with someone like Charlotte makes to you is phenomenal. And not procrastinating. And by not procrastinating, all you need to do tonight is text the word will to 66777. And that's it. You've done something
It's
amazing.
so easy,
We will
isn't it?
phone you and we'll hold your hand from there. And we don't mean that in a patronising way, because I do genuinely, every time we speak to someone and we say, well, what made you do it? And they say, well, we saw you on TV, or a
Yeah.
friend recommended it,
Yeah.
or we thought it was time, something happened, or in a lot of cases, something bad's happened to someone that they know and it's triggered them to go, oh, that could have been us. So, there's usually something that triggers something. But almost certainly every single time someone says, well, I put it off because I thought it was going to be expensive.
Yeah.
It's not.
Nope.
Or they put it off because they thought it was going to be complicated. Well, you'll only know when you speak to Charlotte or Charlotte's
How
team
easy it is.
that it's not complicated. No matter how difficult you think it's going to be, it won't be as difficult as you think when you speak to us. Promise you that.
And you don't have to be nervous about it.
No.
You don't have to worry about it. We've got another review to share with you, actually, which is really relevant once again. Kerry said this: very friendly colleague dealing with my will. It's a very important thing to do, and I was quite nervous about it beforehand, but they made the call very easy with a few laughs in there. I have referred family members to the company.
We have?
Yeah, most definitely.
Honestly.
Family, friends, but we've got to remind you of those offers that Simpler Law have brought us.
They're time limited, only up until Friday at close of business, but do it now, because it is that first step that we put off, and then all of a sudden it'll be the weekend and you've missed out on these deals, because these deals are exclusive deals with us here on Shop on TV, and they are only until Friday at close of business. You've got an amazing deal on wills, and will at full price. I thought it'd be thousands of pounds. So £249, great value for money. However, 40% off for our show, so that goes down £100 to £149. But then, we're not sure why, but they took another 30 off. So you're actually saving £130. So £119 is your price tonight, but obviously only up until close of business on Friday. So just secure the deal today. When you split that into 4 payments, £29.75. And I bet you spend more than that on coffee in a week. That's 4 payments over 4 months that will is then written. And you've given that last gift to your loved ones. What you want to happen with what you've worked so hard for, is going to happen, because you've written a legally binding will.
And that's what all of these documents are. The lasting power of attorney that we just talked about, suggested retail price there is £349. With 40% off, the deal was going to be £209, but we've got a bonus £20 extra discount, so it comes down to £189. And with your 4 interest-free payments, it's £47.25 on your first of 4 payments there. The best saving, though, is if you go for the will and the lasting power of attorney. That should be £598, just shy of £600. 40% off, and then a further £80 off brings it down to £278. And again, spreading that cost interest free, it comes down to just £69.50 on your first of 4 interest free.
And that's better than half price. And if you have been watching us and you've already got in contact, but you only said you wanted the will, and you're now thinking, I wish I'd done will and lasting power of attorney, as long as you've secured the deals, you will be able to add that on, and they will do that same price. Remember, the first 250 people as well will get that fabulous book, What My Family Should Know. And this book is worth £25, but it is only for the first 250. And this always disappears really quickly. It's all vital information that you put together in one book. So we're not hunting for bits and pieces.
It's all that information in one place.
When life is stressed enough and you've lost a loved one and you're now trying to look through boxes, finding information and pensions and passwords for phones and computers because you want those photographs.
You can have it
it's
all
in one
recorded
place.
in there,
Yeah, it is. It's a brilliant
It's
book.
really easy to get in touch as well. If you do want to get in touch and secure those deals that we're talking about, you can go to Simpler Law directly, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. That takes you through to those exclusive deals that we've
Team
talked
are on the
about.
phones as well, so if you want to speak to somebody, you've got the opportunity to do that. You might have a couple of questions, but it's not about questions or having any information tonight. It's just securing those deals. So 0333 600 2600, and you can ring the team. What they'll do is just take your details. They'll get back in touch with you to sort out a time and a day that's right for you to actually sit down and really talk about things. Even if you're going away and you're not home for 3 weeks, you can sort out a date that's right for you when you get back.
Very important to point out as well, you don't need anything with you tonight. You don't need any documents. It's just about securing the deals and securing the offers. You can text as well, and this is always the most popular on these late night shows. You don't want to speak to anyone, you just send a text the word will, W-I-L-L, to 66777, and that'll secure the offer for you, and the team will get back to you later today.
And that's so easy, isn't it?
Yeah, we've always got our phones there, haven't we?
Do that right now. So write W-I-L-L to 66777. That's it. Press the button. You've done it. You've sorted out that will. You've sorted out that lasting power of attorney. Because that is the trickiest bit. Honestly, when you sit down with the team, that is the easy bit. And it's actually really pleasant, even though you're talking about wills and lasting powers of attorney.
Like that review said, we even had a few laughs along the way.
And you've done that by just texting will to 66777. Job done.
And that's whether you want lasting power of attorney or will. It'll secure the offers for you and put them in place. And we are going to go back to talking about will. So if you've maybe you've just woken up and you're going out to work, and maybe you're just about to go to bed, it's about writing a will and putting your wishes in place. And with a company who specialise in estate planning, that's the great thing. They offer so many services, but they're all based around estate planning, as you can see there on the screen.
And that's really important, isn't it? And to actually work and deal with people like yourselves, because things have to be done professionally for them to be legally binding, don't they?
Yeah, and many years ago we decided to specialise in this area. So, we often joke about you wouldn't come to me or Charlotte for a divorce or a boundary dispute or a personal injury claim or any other area of the law, to be honest with you. We wouldn't be able to help you because we've specialised in one area, and that's helping our clients look after everything they've worked hard for and looking after themselves and their loved ones. And that's all around estate planning. So whilst you saw that list of private client legal services up there a second ago, that's all associated with basically looking after you and your family.
Right.
That's what we specialise in. And that's why, I think we do as well as we do, because we're not trying to cover off 27 different disciplines with just professional experts in one.
Peace of mind that we know it's been done right, because obviously you know much more than we do.
Yeah, that's the
It's
whole
what
point.
you do day in, day out.
Yeah, that's the whole point of going to an expert and to a professional who, is in that field. I had a broken tooth, I had a dodgy infected tooth. I guess where I went straight to a dentist. So go to the experts. Charlotte and the client care team, this is what they're trained to do day in, day out. And there isn't a scenario they haven't come across. And quite often when people make a will, and they'll say that they've put it off because they thought it was going to be complicated, morbid or difficult, or there's lots of preconceptions that they've got, and none of them are realised when they speak to the team. But again, it comes back to, but you can only realise that for yourselves if you do text us tonight, or you do, you're quite right, the team are there now. 40333 600 2600. You won't regret that you did that. And even if you did, which I'm telling you won't, just ask for your money back.
Yeah.
Just say, this isn't for me.
So
Charlotte was as horrible as she came across on the TV.
Well, because of your team, you're award
Save it till
winning,
the
so
end.
I don't believe that's true.
It's all those 5-star Trustpilot
When you look at the
reviews,
5-star reviews, it rather than mentioning simpler law, it's all team members. But actually, as a team, you are award winning.
No, we are very, very proud of that. We won Estate Planning Firm of the Year at the British Will and Probate Awards, and obviously a big part of that assessment is what service do you offer your clients, and it's not just about Charlotte and her team, although obviously that's a huge part of it, but it's about every member of the team, down to the will writers, the drafting team, the trust specialists, and down to the administrative staff, because, making sure these documents are put together correctly, which might sound like a trivial thing, isn't that trivial? This is really important. And, we even go as far as heat binding the wills, which might not sound like a really important thing, but we make them tamper-proof. You'd be amazed how easy it is. You'd be amazed how easy it is to lose these documents, to make them invalid, inadvertently through damage and stuff like that.
Wow.
So we go to a lot of trouble to make sure that what you've got is right.
But it's right.
And is for want of a better term, top notch.
And
that's why we won that award.
It's so important, isn't it, to have a legally binding will. Tell us why a will is so important.
When we shuffle off this mortal coil, there's only two ways that we shuffle off this mortal coil. When we pass away, we either pass away with our own will, that we took the time to draft ourselves, and that we got signed, witnessed and dated correctly, and it's valid, and it's our final wishes. So we either pass away with our own will, or if we've not done that, by default, we get what we call the government will, which means you've died intestate, you haven't got a valid will of your own in place, so the government are going to give your estate one. In other words, the government are now going to decide from a set of rules that was originally created 100 years ago when society was very different. That set of rules is now going to determine what you worked hard for, where it's going to go.
And that's just
no say in that.
A series of yes/no questions.
And it doesn't work, I don't think, for anybody, does it? Because that government will that you're seeing right now.
The flow chart you're seeing is high level what the rules of intestacy are.
So, where does it start? And it starts with
marital status.
Status.
So we'd be out straight away, even though we've been together 34 years.
You'd be out.
We're not included.
You'd be out
in that.
in the sense of you'd be out of each other's.
Yes.
Because obviously, let's be horrible. Sean died yesterday, but if Sean passed away yesterday without a will, the first question that would be asked is, are you in a civil partnership or married? And it wouldn't matter that you've been together 34 years. It wouldn't matter that everyone that knows you is like, well, you've been together forever. You've been together longer than most married couples, etc., etc. The rules of intestacy doesn't care. The law is the law, and it's a yes or no question. There's no ambiguity. There's no grey areas, and there absolutely is no legal common law husband or wife, which we hear a lot of. You are either married or in a civil partnership, or you're not. So in Sean's case, the question would be asked, are you married? The answer would be no. The next one was, do you have children? If that answer's no, the next one is, do you have parents? And so on and so forth. But it's all about your family.
Right.
Doesn't care about Hayley at all. And vice versa.
Yeah.
And this is what really shocks people.
Yeah, people don't realise that, do they?
Worse than the shock, unmarried partners who have, there's no provision for unmarried partners at all in the government will. Imagine the devastation. You've actually just lost someone that you've spent your life with, who you love, and because you didn't get married and because you didn't make a will, you're getting nothing. So this awful time is just made even worse.
And I think it's not only devastating, I think it'd be really shocking to most people.
Yeah, and some people say, some people go, oh, well, you're just trying to scare people into making a will. Absolutely not. You can find this out for yourselves. What I'm saying is absolutely factual. It's just hard to believe because it doesn't feel fair. It doesn't feel right.
And then it's even more unfair when you realise that even if we were married, if we had children from different partners, it's not as simple as being married, is it? That doesn't make everything okay, does it?
No, because again, we're back to the bloodline then. So it may work on first death. When we're speaking to a couple, we always talk about first death and second death, which might sound a little bit strange, but obviously if you're talking to a couple and they're making the wills together, we'll ask what they want to happen after the first person passes away, because we don't know who that's going to be. But under the rules of intestacy with a government will, and forgive the finger puppets, but if you've got Mr. and Mrs. and they do have children from previous relationships, well, if Mr. passed away first and everything went to his wife, well, that might be exactly what they wanted to happen. But when Mrs. passes away, it will only follow her bloodline and only go down her children. So Mr's children are over here going, well, where's my share of my dad's estate? There's no provision for them.
You can't believe that, can you? But
no, and again, people are going, well, that's not fair and that's not right.
Yeah.
But there is no wrong or right. There's just the law and the rules of intestacy, and that's why we do these shows, is we don't think there's enough information out there that tell people this is what can happen. Worse still, this is what does happen, but it can all be avoided. If you send us a text tonight, or if you phone a member of the team, and you're prepared to give up, half an hour of your time, you can fix all of this. You can do something amazing for yourself.
And tonight's just about getting in touch, isn't it? It's a couple of minutes of your time.
Yeah, we're just asking you to take that first step. Once you've done that, we'll do everything else.
So we don't need any information?
No information.
And when we do sit down and talk to you, we don't have to come into your offices. We're at home with a cup of tea.
Yeah, done over the phone. You can be at home, cup of tea in hand, sat on the sofa.
So
And we'll do a date and time that's best for you.
Great.
So it all works around you. We go at your own pace. So
It's not really formal, it's not really scary. I think a lot of people would be nervous about it as well.
Yeah, a
They
lot of
think about
clients
costs,
are.
but nervous. But as soon as you talk to the team, and we know this through personal
Yeah.
experience,
Prior to the Simpler Law being with us,
everyone at ease.
Yeah, so at ease. Me and Mum are the biggest worries, and instantly, as soon as we started chatting, because it is just to sit down and
it's
a
like
chat.
this, isn't it?
yeah,
I never
something
felt
like this.
silly at any point asking a question, because usually I think, oh, why did I ask that? That was a daft question. Not at one point did I think that. And then even after we'd stopped the phone, we'd finished, I emailed because I'd forgotten something, and you did everything at our pace, made it all so simple and easy.
Yeah, I think it can be really daunting because it's the unknown, I think, for a lot of people when they're coming. It might be their first will. They might have done one, but it might be years ago, and it might be a bit difficult to have that conversation. But genuinely, it's just a conversation. You've got all the answers. We'll ask you all the questions.
And that is the nice thing, because I think there's a lot of things you don't think about. When we think about a will, I think we just think about money.
Yes.
The money I've got in the bank.
Yeah.
But actually, there's so many other things
much
that
more.
can be sorted in a
That
will,
you
isn't
can
there?
include.
And you've got so much more than you realise.
Yeah, definitely. We speak to a lot of clients, they might say, well, I haven't got a lot. But then when you actually start going
The
through it, you've got a house, you've
the
got
car,
a car, your pets.
Of course.
All these add up. But there's so much more you can do. It's not just monetary values. It could be something personal, so a family heirloom, or a particular item that's really personal to you that you might want to go to your son or your daughter. You can put funeral requests in there. So these might be conversations you actually don't want to have with family, or family don't
I
want to
think
have
that's
with
so
you.
true. They're really difficult things, and it gives
Conversations.
such peace of mind that you've actually written
You
down
put
what
it down
you want.
in a document. Exactly.
So you're not saying, no, I think Dad would like this. No, I think he would have preferred that. It's written there.
It's all about removing that family dispute because it's there. You've made that choice.
It removes the ambiguity, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's about you taking that control.
And the other thing that I hadn't really thought about, because you don't want to think about things like this, it's children as well.
Yeah. There's a couple of things with children. You can actually put the age they inherit, firstly. So legally, children inherit at the age of 18, but
That could be.
there's not many clients that want their children to have inheritance at 18. We've all been there. So they can stagger it. They could say they get some at 18, some at 21.
Right.
And when it comes to children, the other thing is guardianship.
Guardianship's
isn't
a really big
it? If it's a really sad situation and both parents die at the same time,
Yeah.
you can specify that in your will as well.
Yeah, you can put a guardianship clause in your will, so a lot of clients will know or have an idea of who they'd want to take care of their children. If you haven't obviously put a will in place, you're essentially relying on the right person to step forward, which may not even be the person you'd have actually nominated for your children, because it might not necessarily be family.
No,
it might be
that's
friends. But at the same time, if you've got a close-knit family, you might find if you haven't got a will and you've passed away, two sets of grandparents step forward because, well, we'll look after the children for you. And they might have good intentions at the time.
It's a positive, but it becomes a negative.
Dispute. Exactly, yeah. And you've got, at the heart of it, these children that are under the age of 18 that have lost their parents and are now stuck in the middle of a family
And everyone's
feud.
arguing who's...
Emotions are high, you know.
Absolutely.
There's a bereavement in the middle of all of this as well.
It's often when families fall out, isn't it, at this sort of time, because
the single biggest reason for a breakdown in family relationships is following a bereavement, and typically where there's no will.
Yeah,
so
all it
everyone's
takes
arguing.
is-
Everyone feels that they know what mom or dad would have wanted,
Yeah.
or whoever's passed away, what they would have wanted. And coming back to guardianship, I think the most awful thing about that is you're hoping that the right, and I say you're hoping, you're no longer here, but you're hoping that the right people are going to step forward to look after your children. But ultimately, someone that's never met you and never met your family, they're going to be making that decision.
Yeah, they're going to choose, yeah.
When all you had to do
Scary,
was
isn't it?
speak to us 15
Yeah.
minutes, and we could have made that document clear and put it in a legally binding document saying, I want my parental responsibility to pass to this couple or that person, and that's it. It's done, but it's done through speaking to someone like Charlotte. I mean, you don't have to speak to Charlotte, you can get someone
Oh,
competent.
he's terrible.
Started so
I think
strong.
that-
I know.
I think we owe him 4 kicks so
He
far.
started really.
I'm doing it when we're off camera under the table.
Good. I'm pleased. I hope he's got a bruise.
The worst thing is she does hit me where the bruises come from. She's become very good at that.
I've got a heel for a reason.
Absolutely.
But-
the other thing is, it's
Sorry.
not just children; it's pets, and I think to a lot of people, their pets are their children. So it does matter to them what's going to happen to my
Yeah,
to the
absolutely.
dog, what's going to happen to the cat.
Yeah, really, really important. Sometimes more so than children. We'll get the children out of the way and then we focus on the pet.
More time for the pet.
Yeah. But no, that's really, really important because again, it's personal.
Yeah.
You might want a particular person to take care of your pet and you actually can give them a cash allowance with that pet as well.
To look after the pet.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's
it's all personal to you. All of this is about making a document that's right for you. And you can only do that if you get in contact with us and make that first step.
We had
So that's why we do that.
I've just thought about my.
We had one client recently who literally went, yeah, son and daughter equal shares. And then she's like, right, I've got 2 dogs, and I've written a list of favourite food and where they want it. And we're like, okay. And we referred to that letter in the will as well. And she left a legacy. So,
lovely.
but that was really important to her. Whilst that letter would have existed outside of the will, she's left a legacy for the person that she's leaving the dogs to,
Lovely.
which funnily enough weren't her children.
Yeah.
How funny.
Yeah, so but
How
but
funny.
all of this always circles back to it's your will, it's your document. Of course we want you as a client, but these aren't our documents. These are your documents, and that's the key. That's the important thing. So you choose what goes in them, not us. We'll give you advice along the way, but at the end of it, you get your document, and that's why we've never written a will that even barely resembles the rules of intestacy, because the rules of intestacy isn't personal.
No.
Your will is made by you, about you and about your family, so it's your document.
And whether that family is your pets, I'm thinking about my brother, 2 dogs and a horse, that's what they've
Yeah.
got. And that is
It
their
is their
world.
family, yeah.
So they would definitely want to make sure that they were going to be looked after. And that's why a will is so important. You're writing down what you want to happen with whatever you own. And don't think you haven't got and you don't own anything, because you do. And even if it is just that special ring that was handed down to you, or whether it's that special watch or a family heirloom, there are important things that where they want to be or where you want them to go. And you might have told all those, your daughter, she's having this, but unless it's legally binding in a legal will, the government will does fall in place. There is a will. If you don't have a written will, a legally binding written will, the government will fall in place. And hand on heart, I don't think that is right for anybody, because it's not personal at all.
It's about your last wish, and tonight's about taking that first step for your last wish. So many great reviews for Simpler Law. We're going to share another one with you right now. This one is from Nita. I wanted to rewrite my will and saw the advert. When Ollie phoned me today, he was very helpful and provided me with excellent customer service, helping me and explaining things when I wasn't sure about something. And that's from Nita, and I think that's a great one actually, because it really is that you don't have to be afraid of big words and things that you don't know about, because the team at Simpler Law are experts and they don't put it in all big words. It's not overcomplicated, and if there is anything you don't understand, you just ask the question, don't you?
It's a sit-down conversation, and that it's as simple as that. In the chat, they ask the questions to get the answers.
Yeah.
And you might think you haven't got the answers, but you will have. It's in there in your heart, it's in there in your head, and there's lots of things that you won't have even thought about, and they'll mention. You think, oh, gosh, I didn't even think about the cat. I didn't even think about the family clock. We've got a family clock that's meant to go down, the bloodline to the Greens. I'm still a Green, so. but that's how it's meant to be, and that's how it should carry on, and you want to make sure those things happen, and it's your last gift to your loved ones, and it doesn't have to be passed on to family members if you don't. It might even be the fact that there is someone that you haven't got along with, or someone that has been estranged from the family, and you don't want them to have things, and that isn't rare. So don't be embarrassed, don't think things are more complicated, because Simpler Law have dealt with all and everything, and they will get that will absolutely right for you.
Until you're satisfied with it. And that's the great thing, isn't it? And it's your document, so until you're satisfied, it won't be signed off, it won't be finished.
Absolutely. You've got to be 100% happy with the instructions you've given us, and you've got to be happy with the advice that we've given you. Now, you don't have to take any of our advice, but obviously as we're going through this process, we've got a duty of care to give you that advice. Up to you whether you take all of it, some of it, or none of it. But at the end of the day, the one guarantee is always this: you get your will that's right for you, and you'll understand it. Because if you're not happy, you'll say so, and we'll say, not a problem, here's your money back. Sorry, this wasn't for you. But that never really happens.
I bet not.
Charlotte always says that when you deal with clients, they're always like, oh, what a weight was lifted.
Yeah, every time. I think a weight sometimes they didn't even realise they actually had, especially with the advice we sometimes give, or the questions that we ask. They might actually, as you just said, Hayley, might not have even thought of that.
No, that's it, yeah.
So actually, until you've gone through the process, it's only when you get to the end you think,
wow.
Oh, wow, that's great. And once you've done it, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, get it signed, obviously, and everything correctly, but then put it to the side, carry on with your life, and know that you've done something good and it's there.
It's there, it's in place.
Should you need it? Exactly. You can obviously review it in the future, but do it now, because you never know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
You were spot on, Hayley, when you said you've got all the answers. The cheesy thing is we've got all the questions. But obviously we've got none of the answers, because it's not our will.
No, that's
So you've got all the answers. We've got all the questions. You've got all the answers. And that's what happens.
And you've got the knowledge as well. It's even down to things like inheritance tax. Lots of things change, don't they?
Yeah.
And we don't know they've changed because we're not in your business, but you know things have changed, that there are perhaps loopholes or something that we've missed personally.
Yeah, our job is to make sure that we maximise things like your tax-free allowances and things like that. Make sure you don't make a decision that might create a tax liability that doesn't need to exist.
right.
And again, it all comes back to you can only know what you know. I joke, but it's absolutely true. I know nothing outside of estate planning. I actually quite like, my dad thinks that I'm doing okay where I am, so he'll ask me about all kinds of things. I'm like, Dad, I don't know. Ask me about a will and lasting power of attorney. We're golden. Ask me anything outside of that. He's like, oh, I thought you were bright, son. No, Dad, not really. But I'm okay. I'm okay in this specialist field, and that's also, it does work in our favour, because we're not trying to be a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
We're a master of one.
Yeah.
So when you're speaking to Charlotte or a member of the client care team, their sole job, their entire purpose is to help you put a will in place, put a trust in place, put a lasting power of attorney in place, and that's all we know. We won't go outside of that. And that means that you're always going to get best advice, and that's going to be insured advice as well. We've got over 250,000 clients, so we've come across pretty much every scenario, so we will be able to help you. But more importantly, every single client that we have been able to help, our advice and our documents are insured for up to £5 million, so you've got that peace of mind as well. If we have made a mistake, you're covered, and touch wood, we never have, because I'm going to big you up now. I know you're not having paid.
Been waiting for it. I'll just write it down, make a note.
Just managed
make
to
a note.
Only just.
But in all seriousness, and again, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, which is why we want you to text, we want you to phone. That's the only way that you can speak to Charlotte or a member of her team and find out for yourself just how good they are. That's why we get the 5-star reviews. That's why we won the award that we won. So we're proud of that.
We are going to talk about the offers again quickly, because we are coming towards the end of the show. Remember, these offers are valid until close of business on Friday, but we would say take that step now, secure those offers. You've got wills, you've got lasting power of attorney, or you've got a combination if you want to go for the both. And we are going to cover lasting power of attorney once again in just a moment. If you do want to write a will tonight, it should be £249. A 40% discount, a further discount of £30 brings today's price down to £119, and offering you 4 interest-free payments, just £29.75 on your first of 4 payments there. Then we go to lasting power of attorney.
Lasting power of attorney, again, great price at £349, but you have got a great discount. That 40% off brings it down to £209, but then another £20 off means you actually end up saving £160 in total. So £189 is your price. And when you split these prices and think about how much you spend on coffee, how much you spend on takeaways, how much you spend on a night out, it's so little money. to do so much good. So for your lasting power of attorney, it works out at 4 payments of 47.25. And remember, tonight you're securing those deals, but do it right now, because you've only got up until Friday at close of business, and you know you'll forget once you've gone to bed tonight or you go off to work this morning. So please make sure you secure these prices so you don't miss out. And even if you have already secured them and you only secured the price for the will, you only mentioned you wanted the will, and now you're seeing we actually do a combination of will and lasting power of attorney, you will be able to change your mind as such. If you think, well, actually, I want to add on the lasting power of attorney with my will, they will allow you this price as long as you've secured the deals tonight. So you can see there, £598 is your regular price. You're saving there £358 because you've got that 40% off. So saving, well, in the end, you're saving an incredible price of £320. So you actually save more than you spend, because they actually give you another £80 off after the 40%. So going down to £278. And again, when you split that cost, £69.50, 4 payments of £69.50. That's my gym membership that I pay every month of every year continually. That's 4 payments, and the job is done for your will and your lasting power of attorney.
So easy to get in touch, whether you want to go to the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can call the team right through till 3 a.m, 0333 600 2600, and you don't need any documentation, you just securing
and they're
the
there,
deals.
right there,
right now.
So grab them whilst they're still there, and the deal, and it's done. Or just text Will. The text is so easy. You might be sat at home, perhaps you're getting ready to go off to work, perhaps you're getting ready to go to bed. You don't really fancy talking to anybody right now. That's all you need to do. We do it all the time for competitions, don't we? Text Will to 66777. It's done. You've taken that step. You've got that job done, really, because this is the most difficult bit. The easy bit is sitting down and talking to the team. And hand on heart, that is the absolute truth. So get the job done. And you've done that if you've texted Will. Job done. They'll get in contact to find the right date to really sit down and talk about it properly, and then it's sorted.
It's just taking that first step, whether it's a will or a lasting power of attorney. And we're quickly going to recap on lasting powers of attorney. Charlotte, for anyone at home who's wondering what a lasting power of attorney is, can you explain it for them?
Yep, so these are documents you put in place hoping you never need to use them, but they're there should life throw you a curveball and you lose your capacity for any reason. It could be through ill health, it could be through a freak accident, but if you can't make your own decisions, powers of attorney are documents where you nominate who can do that for you in that situation.
So perhaps if you've got dementia, or perhaps if you've been, my friend was knocked down by a car.
Yeah.
So it's about having these in place before anything happens.
Yes, doing them now, obviously, like I say, hoping that that curveball never comes, but if it does, they're there should the worst happen. So you know that people that you trust can become you and essentially have your voice and act on your behalf.
So there's 2 types. There's property and affairs, which we're going to look at first of all.
Yeah.
And these are some of the things that we're talking about, aren't they? Things like claiming pensions and benefits.
Yes, so anything financial really. These things don't just stop because you've lost your capacity. So as you've just said, they can access your bank accounts, they can claim pensions, claim benefits, pay bills, manage any properties that you have if these need to be sold. If you've got rental properties and rents coming in.
Because you can't do that even if you're the wife or the husband, or if you're the daughter or the mother.
Exactly
it's out of your control completely. Though you'd think, well, I love them, I can step in. You're not able to at all.
No, so essentially, even if you own a property with that person, it takes 2 of you to agree on that decision.
Of course.
So if one of you's lost capacity, you don't have that right. And a lot of people have the assumption, as you've just said, it's my wife, it's my daughter, why would I not be able to make that decision for them? But if you phone up any institution now and say, I need to access this account or I need to make decisions on this account, the first thing they say is, are you the account holder? They go through data protection.
Yeah.
And if that's not you, that's it. They won't speak to you. That's a conversation.
And that
over.
makes, when you say that you can't do it now, can you? If I ring up for mum has to speak to them first before they'll actually speak to me. So if they're poorly and they really can't look after themselves, they're vulnerable, aren't they? So they're not going to just let you take control. When we actually came for lasting power of attorney, we came for the financial side, but then you told us the second one, and to me this was just as important.
Yeah, the health and welfare. So it's a lot more personal, health and welfare. So again, it can be the same people or different to the financial document, but the people that you trust to decide where you're living. So if that be in a care home, which care home that is.
Right.
if they want to care for you at home, they can also make that decision because
It's
they
really
have that power.
personal, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. They can even decide who isn't visiting you because they know who you have relationships with. So if you've lost your voice and that power to make your decisions, they can do that for you, which is really, really important.
Of course it is.
Life-sustaining treatment medication that you're receiving,
Gosh,
even down
yes.
to what you're wearing, what you're eating, which on a day-to-day basis we take for granted. You get up in the morning, you go about your day, you have your breakfast, you put on your makeup, you do your hair. But if you've lost the capacity to do that,
You still,
by nominating
what did you
yourself.
say
So
before?
important.
You're still you.
yeah,
aren't
exactly. It's what makes you you.
That's it. That's it.
And
It would be
personal.
devastating to go into a home, someone you absolutely loved, and they didn't have that lipstick on, or they were wearing
Yeah.
completely the wrong
Exactly.
clothes.
For example, I love getting my nails done.
Yeah.
A lot of
So
people
you'd
are gonna-
still want that,
my loved
wouldn't
ones
you?
are going to know that.
Yeah, my auntie
exactly.
Cora loved her
Yeah.
nails polished, and that was the biggest thing. I made sure she
Yeah.
had her nails
My
polished.
nan
your
loves getting her
nails
hair done.
Yeah, not so bad. Not so bad.
And they're really personal things that are
Yeah.
personal to your loved ones as well. But
And it's just as important to them most of
Yeah.
the time. They're going to want to be able to do those things for you. So by giving them your voice and giving them that power, you're called the donor on the power of attorney because you're donating your
Right.
power to those people. So it allows them to do all of those things for you. It's really, really powerful documents.
These things that sound quite trivial, and we're aware they sound quite trivial, you know, we joke about nails and lipstick and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Suddenly they take on
They're
a whole new importance
absolutely
when you...
Massively,
Gosh.
yeah.
It's like whenever anything's
Huge.
taken away from us, we're like, I want that
Of
back.
course, yeah.
So by donating your power, donating your voice, you ensure that these things can carry on, and these trivial things then become quite important. The money side, everyone understands. Money makes the world go round. We need to deal with that. The health and welfare, it really is a lot more,
Yeah.
by definition, personal. And being able to give you a voice for that as well is as important for different reasons.
And the thing is, Ian, if they're not in place, there's a process that has to take place, isn't there?
And again, there's no grey area between you either have a lasting power of attorney
Or you don't.
And
Yeah.
if you don't, you're relying on the right person in your mind to then apply to what's called the Court of Protection for a deputyship order. And that's the only way that that person or people can then become an attorney, if you like. They become a deputy, but it's a very similar thing.
And you've got to rely on the right person coming forward. It could be a family member that might be just after your money. You know, it's got to be done right. There's got to be things like this in place.
Yeah, and the Court of Protection is there to try and determine that, but that weirdly goes against the right person.
Right, yeah.
Because, you know, a wife or a husband, a son or a daughter whose absolutely intentions are pure, are kind of put through the ringer a little bit because the Court of Protection is there to protect the vulnerable person.
Of course.
It's almost like the question is weird. Why do you want to look after your husband? It's like
It's like
but
you're a victim already, and now you're a double victim,
Yeah.
and
Worse
you're
than
having to
that,
pay for it.
your energy and your time wants to be spent looking after your loved one or with your loved
Yeah,
one, and
and
actually
you're
dealing with the
wasting it.
bureaucracy of dealing with the court. And not only is it incredibly expensive, but it takes forever.
Of course it does.
The
It's the
difference-
time as well.
The
isn't it?
difference between thousands of pounds and circa a year to get through a deputyship order through the Court of Protection, the difference is you can register a lasting power of attorney with the Office of Public Guardian, and for want of a better description, you're good to go.
So that's the
And-
registration you're talking
Yeah.
about now, Ian. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one.
It's-
We
one
did
other
that
thing.
straight away, but you can hold on to the documents and do it later when you need them.
Personal
The great thing is
preference, yeah.
we know you've done it right, so
Yeah.
it's all ready to go through as and when.
Yes.
I don't know where the time has gone. And I
flying,
know we've had a really, really busy night. Price-wise, remember the prices you've seen and the prices we're going to show you right now are only till Friday close of business. But please take a photo of that page right now. Get in contact right now, because you will forget. It will be Saturday before you know it, and you'll have missed out on these massive savings. For a will, should be £249. It's actually going down to 119. So you get 40% off, another 30% off. You save 130, so you're saving more than you spend. And when you split that into 4 payments, you're not really even going to notice. It's £29.75. You probably spend more on coffee, and that is your will written. You know what you want to happen to what you've worked so hard for. It's going to go to the people you wanted it to go to. It's your last gift to your loved ones. Then lasting power of attorney.
Yeah, we just were talking about that. Remember, you've got the 2 different options with lasting power of attorney. It should be £349 with 40% off, £209. An extra £20 discount brings it down to £189, and that's £47.25 on your first of 4 payments. But the biggest saving of all is if you go for the option of a will and lasting power of attorney, just shy of £600, the usual price, where today's price comes down to £278, saving more than you're spending tonight. And with those 4 interest-free payments, just £69.50 on your first of 4 payments. First 250 clients will also receive that What My Family Should Know book, and that's a book where you'll record all and everything, all the details.
Vital information.
Yeah.
All your pensions, all your details on your home and things that people will need when you pass, but also things that you perhaps won't think about, like your passwords for phones and tablets, where there could be vital information or really treasured photographs that you want to get. And if you haven't got that password, that book is fantastic. And again, it's only for the first 250. So do it right now to secure that book as well. And so easy to do this. It's honestly, it's probably the most difficult thing, but it's actually one of the easiest things. If you don't want to speak to anybody, jump onto the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. Really simple name, email address, blah de blah. You click submit, and your deal is done. You've secured all those prices.
You've started, haven't you? You've taken that first step.
If you're like my mum, I haven't got them buttons. She'd want to get onto her phone, so the team are still there. That's 0333 600 2600. So jump onto the phone right now, just to say, I want to secure the prices. They will get back to you then later on today, or when it's convenient to speak to you to sort out a day to really sit down and chat about it all. But the easiest way and the quickest way is to
just text
will.
Yeah, if you've got your phone there with you right now, text the word will to 66777. Whether you want the lasting power of attorney or the will, just text will to 66777 and do it right now. The offers are available till close of business Friday, but we would say do it right now.
Tomorrow never comes, and actually that's life. Tomorrow might not come. And if you haven't got a written will, all of those are really important. But if you haven't got a will, there is a government will that will fall in place, and it will not be at all what you want to happen. You'll be looking down, watching the family fall out because they know what you wanted to happen, and it's not happening. Get that will written. It's the best thing you can do for your family. But that lasting power of attorney is fantastic as well.
Got to say a huge thank you. It's 3 a.m. already.
Thank you for having us.
Hasn't it? Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of you at home for joining us as well. It's such an important show, this. So take that first step and start that ball rolling. It might be something that you've just not got
The first step is always the trickiest, and then it's just that peace of mind, that weight off your shoulder. The job will be done, and done so well with Simpler Law.
See you soon. Bye-bye.